Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comment. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction. Oh, Lord, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Gary, you have an item, presentation on the development of the East Kern County Diversification Plan by the consultant TIP Strategies Incorporated. Well, are you? Please come and join us.
I am Michelle.
Please.
And
Would you like to introduce yourself and tell
Yes.
us? Is he coming? Okay.
I'm happy to give the background. And
Please.
okay.
Please.
My name is Tom Stillman. I'm with a firm called TIP Strategies based out of Austin, Texas. We have been awarded a contract that was originated from the Department of Defense Office of Economic Adjustment to do some strategic planning work on economic development for East Kern County. And I do have a brief presentation that will probably give you some more background, if that's okay. Our firm has done a lot of work around the country. We are based in Austin. We felt like it was important to have a California partner, so we brought in a firm called Chabon Concepts that's based out of Chico that specializes in doing economic development strategy for small communities, has done a lot of work here in California. These are the beautiful faces of the team members that are working on this project. I count myself among that. Thank you very much. I also have John Karras, who is our project manager on this team. And we have been in the community this morning and this afternoon. And Gary has arrived. Gary, did you want to say anything else before Mayor asked me to just roll on? So, all right. Thank you, Gary. Thank you. Our team has experience in community engagement. We look at industry sectors across the country and help communities understand where the growth opportunities are. We also do a lot of work in communities that are struggling to find talent, to find people with the skilled workforce. And then we also do a lot of work in communities that have military installations. That's just a little background on our firm. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the project, and then I'll give you a couple of thoughts on some of the things that we heard today. But our project for East Kern is to look at industry clusters, where are the opportunities here for industries to grow. We're also asked to look at the workforce for this region, and especially to look at commuting patterns and where this area might be losing some talent to other areas in the region. And then we will lay out an economic development strategy for this region, as well as economic development strategies for 6 communities in this region. One of them is Ridgecrest, California City, and Tehachapi. Those are the 3 incorporated areas. In addition to that, we'll be working with Mojave, Rosamond, and Boron. And so we'll be at this for the next 9 months, and we'll be in each of the communities several times. As I mentioned this morning, we had an opportunity to do a small community meeting as well as some individual employer interviews. And then John and I were invited to the installation and met with a team of 6 at the installation to better understand what's happening there. And we met with some of those that work with the contractors there. In our session this morning, we had a lively discussion about some of the challenges and opportunities that the community of Ridgecrest and around here faced. And so we feel like we've learned a lot in a very short period of time, but I will tell you that we are just getting started. And so we plan to be back in this community within the next 30 to 60 days. And we hope to advertise to let all of those who would like to participate in a session to share your ideas about what you think are challenges and opportunities for economic development in this community. There'll be another opportunity for everyone to do that. And so this is really, this isn't meant to be a presentation on findings or anything. It's just more of an introduction of what we're up to. The time frame for us, and you guys will all get a copy of this presentation, but the time frame for us is actually through February of next year, but we hope to be wrapped up really by the end of this year. And there's been a lot of great work done in Ridgecrest already on economic development, and there's been some planning work, and we don't plan to replicate what's already been started. People have shared with us that there's been some committees created that are doing some really good work about important issues, and so we plan to tap into that and enhance that. We'll also be running a lot of data because we think data is important as we go through this process. The next steps for us is we're going to come back to the community. We're actually going to build a leadership group that's actually East Kern, not Ridgecrest, but we'll do an assessment, a SWOT analysis. We'll understand the assets that you have here, and then we're actually doing a project website that will have an online survey, or an online questionnaire, and that website is eastkernopportunity.com, and that website is already live, and it has a copy of the presentation that we made this last month when we were in the region, as well as a link to the questionnaire. So if anybody gets missed, this is an opportunity for you to share what you think about the challenges and opportunities for this community. And so I'm happy to answer any questions, Madam Mayor or council members, that you have. Otherwise, just want to let you know that we're hard at work.
I've spoken to two of the people that attended the meeting today, the Board of Realtors. Oh, yeah. Donna Hawker said it was one of the most exciting, invigorating meetings that they had been to in a very long time, because you offered opportunities and pointed out potential solutions as we decided what we need and what we can do. And I'm so very thankful that you're here. I know when the meeting in California City was well attended and everyone thought that you had presented opportunities for us to look at what we can do for ourselves. And so I thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Well, thank you. I mean, we pride ourselves in not just producing a document that goes on the shelf, but that there's actually an implementable, actionable plan that the community can get behind and make progress. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there a council comment or questions? Okay.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, the next item now is public comment. Persons wish to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear in the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take an action on the item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Please, council, please come to the front.
I'm Paul Valovich. This is Axel Alvarez. We're representing the Indian Wells Valley Airport District and want to discuss and give an update to y'all on the status of our efforts to restore airline service to Inyakern. We couldn't get on the agenda. We were late for that, so I only got 5 minutes. So I'm going to whiz through this stuff as much as I can. The bottom line, though, the stuff I'm talking about here will be posted on our website, the Inyakern Airport website, and the documentation that describes the matching fund request that I'm going to talk about will be published in the newspapers, both newspapers here in the coming week. Okay, SkyWest, a little bit of background. SkyWest left in 2013. At the time they left, they had the highest per mile ticket price of any airline trip in the country. Tied with that was the fact that the government was cutting down and it was sequestered, and so it was just a mess. And our enplanements, the number of people that actually got on the airplanes, went from 11,000 plus in 2008 down to 7,000 in 2012. If you look at the number of flights that occurred during that period, depending on how you work the math, the average number of people that we had on an airplane leaving Inyakern at the time, or during that period, was somewhere between 5 and 8 people. We get a lot of pressure or questions. Why don't we go after somebody like Southwest? Well, the smallest Southwest airplane is a 737-300 with 136 seats. I may be a silver-tongued devil, but I'm not nearly silver-tongued enough to convince Southwest to send a 136-seat airplane up here to pick up 8 people. They just aren't going to do it. There's no business case for that. We have explored numerous airlines. several of which we thought we had a deal with, and they ended up going bankrupt and going out of business. But we have found an airline out of Hawaii, Mokulele Airlines. They were founded in 1994. They do 120 flights per day around Hawaii. They started flying Cessna Grand Caravans in 2006. Their proposal to us is 3 flights a day out of Inyakern to LAX Terminal 6 at a cost of about $100 per trip. That's the good news. As is everything, I mean, you all know, as politicians, everything ultimately comes down to money. The airport is pursuing a Department of Transportation grant to offset the startup cost, the infrastructure cost of bringing this airline in here. The part of that is a requirement that the community supports with matching funds, which is a percentage of the grant, not the whole total grant, a matching funds pool that shows community support. We expect 23 cities lost airline service in the past couple of years, so there's going to be a tremendous amount of competition for this grant. We think we have an excellent case. We have Representative McCarthy's office on board. We have an excellent relationship with the FAA and the Department of Transportation, so we're pursuing this grant. The problem is they changed the rules, and we have to have our proposal in by May 3rd, so it doesn't give us much time. So we are undertaking a request to the community to solicit matching funds from businesses and from individuals. The disbursement and the rules regarding those matching funds are somewhat complicated. They are described in this document, which will be published in the paper and is available out on our website. But the bottom line is any amount that you all can provide. It's a pledge. It isn't real money. The money will not be dispersed until the airline actually starts flying out of Inyakern. And the rules are that we'd still have to work through the contract and all the details. But if they come here and they are not meeting a certain load factor, or they're not meeting, covering expenses, and there will be ways of auditing and determining what that is. For the first year and up to 3 years of their contract, with that DOT grant, they will be subsidized by both the DOT grant and the matching funds on a percentage basis. So the problem we have, though, is this tremendous competition we are in. Are you going to tell me when 5 minutes are up, or do I keep yapping?
Rachel will let you know.
Oh, okay. We're in tremendous competition with these other cities. We applied for a grant last year and we're not successful. And one of the reasons was our matching fund pool at the time of $92,000 when we went after a $400,000 grant. They didn't consider the matching fund pool to be, compared to other cities, everything is relative, to be sufficient to show enough community involvement that we were really serious about doing this. So again, I'm here to appeal to y'all, to the residents of Ridgecrest and surrounding area. If you want airline service, I hate to say it, but it's going to cost us a little bit. Does that mean I'm done?
That was it.
Thank you. Website, inyakerairport.com. And I'm here if anybody wants to. Thank you.
We appreciate that. I know when you asked me if you could speak, I said you had 5 minutes, and we weren't going to cut your head off at 5 minutes, but I appreciate you keeping that. Thank you. Next person, please.
Does that mean to let me go over 5 minutes?
No, sir.
I didn't think so. Okay. For those of you who aren't familiar, I didn't get a handout that I was in the hallway passing around today. Give you a little summary information. For 3 years now, Mr. Dale Howard's been fighting with the city and the city's attorneys of various types over the fact that former police captain didn't like the way his property looked and what it had on it. Well, it works out okay if you go to a jury trial, which he won over some of the charges that were brought against him. But when you're forced in front of a judge without a jury, and all you get to do is stand there and listen to the complaints lodged against you by affidavit without looking anybody in the eye and asking them why they're saying these things about you, then you usually lose what you did. So the judge puts his property into receivership, which means the receiver owns his property, even though Mr. Howard supposedly still owns his property. So figure that out. However, the receiver is king in this case. So even though Mr. Howard removed the C-vans and all the metal and things like that, they still found some more stuff that they claimed, well, we have to do this stuff so they could rack up more expenses, which they did, and, well, Mr. Howard's out of money. So guess what? There's a letter from the receiver on April 19th. Mr. Howard, we're going to inform you that the agent selected to market and sell the receivership property, which is his home of 40 years on Mayo Street, is going to be inspecting these properties this April 21st in order to prepare to sell the property. So Mr. Howard says, well, I don't want you on my property. I need to see a court order. Well, like I said, the receiver is king here. So he writes an email back to Mr. Howard, and he says, well, we were appointed under the Health and Safety Code, Section 17980.7, blah, blah, blah. And that gives us basically powers. And he says, we are in possession of the property. And then he goes on to say, I've worked hard to accommodate your request to remain on site, which means continue living in his own house because of the health issues in your family, which I was told by one gentleman here today that knows him well. This could well be the end of Mr. Howard's wife. But he goes on to say, but if you're not going to let people come inspect your house, then you'll become a trespasser on your own house, your own property. And then I'll have no option but to just remove you, which means call the police, call a sheriff or the marshals, whoever they call, drag them out of there physically, toss them out literally on the street. And he goes on to say, if you refuse these directives, I will have to ban you from the property, your house, during this sale process. And of course, he goes on to remind him that every minute they spend going back and forth about this cost him lots and lots of money, because all of a sudden, when the money is come due, now it's Mr. Howard's property. Long and short of it is, like I've got on this handout, and I'll put some more copies of this on the desk for anybody interested, is Mr. Howard lost possession of his property without benefit of trial by jury, which is supposed to be an inviolate right in the California Constitution in Article 1. He didn't get that. They just drug him in front of a kangaroo court. And he's broke, and they're going to sell his house. And I guess he just gets to join the ranks of the homeless. I don't really know, and I don't think he does either. I've asked him, and he doesn't really know. He doesn't have a clue. I've talked about this now for over 2 years up here. Not a single thing, no compassion, not a move to say, let's bring an end to this. We got the property cleaned up like we wanted, even though all along all these statements were made to people behind the scenes, but we're not going to take Mr. Howard's property. Well, read the letter. Tell me if you think they're not going to take Mr. Howard's property now. I've stated how I feel about this way too many times. Everybody in town ought to know about it, but I'll say it one more time. This is a black stain. This is the most disgusting thing I've seen here in over 30 years in this town. And the fact that this is allowed to go on, it's hard to actually believe, but I've been watching it for 2 years, so I have to. And when you see him out in the street, I guess you could just give him your condolences.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay. Now the next item on the calendar is the consent calendar. Council announcements. Any council announcements? Lori?
I got one, Ms. Peggy, if you don't mind. On May the 5th, 2016, Thursday, there'll be an open house of the Ridgecrest Police Department at the Kermit McGee Center. It will take place at 6 o'clock. The whole family is asked to come out and participate in free gifts, guest speakers, and police department would love to have everybody there. So that's May the 5th at 6 o'clock here at the Kermit McGee Center to get to know our police department a little better.
Thank you. I have one on April 30th. There's going to be a cleanup at Desert Empire Fair grounds with Ridge Project and many churches. I understand there's going to be well over 200 people there. And so I applaud all of you who are going to be there and help keep Ridgecrest clean. It's our community. It's our responsibility as Ridge Project's slogan, and I appreciate the work they do. Okay, so now, consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by city staff and will be approved in one motion if no member of the public or the council wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anyone, that item may be removed from the consent calendar and will be considered separately with public comment before action is taken. Item number 4, approved draft minutes of the Ridgecrest City Council Successor Redevelopment Agency Financing Authority Housing Authority meeting dated April 6, 2016. Item number 5, adopt a resolution approving a proclamation recognizing Parental Alienation Awareness Day and authorizing the city clerk to mail the proclamation to the requester. A resolution, number 6, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest authorizing the establishment of a new fund and requesting assessment collection services for the Drainage Benefit Assessment District number 2016-1 and authorizing the city manager to sign a letter to establish the fund. Item number 7, adoption of Resolution 1 declaring the city's intention to form a drainage benefit assessment district and initiating proceedings to form the drainage benefit assessment district number 2016-1 and to levy assessments commencing in fiscal year 2016-17, and 2, the preparation and filing of the engineer's report regarding the formation of the drainage benefit assessment district 2016-1 and to conduct a property owner protest ballot proceeding for the assessment and set the time and place for the public hearing. Number 8, adoption of resolutions. 1, the city's intent to annex territory to the Ridgecrest Landscaping and Lighting District number 2012-1 and to levy and collect annual assessments related thereto commencing fiscal year 2016-17, and 2, approving a preliminary engineer's report in connection with the annexation and declaration that the city's intention to levy assessments, conduct the required protest ballot proceedings, and setting a time and place for the public hearing. Number 9, a resolution of the City of Ridgecrest City Council accepting a grant of easement deed for the additional street right-of-way for North Warner Street improvements for Mr. Robert Jennings and Mrs. Guadalupe Lopez Jennings for valuable consideration for the $4,587 and authorizing the city manager to sign the acquisition of easement agreement and the mayor to sign the certificate of acceptance. And number 10, a resolution approving the program supplemental agreement number 039-N1 with the State of California Department of Transportation under Master Agreement number 095385R and authorized tax allegation bonds in the amount of $74,159 be used for matching funds and authorize the city manager Dennis Spear to sign the program supplement agreement for construction of the South Channel Lake Boulevard project from Bowman Roads to College Height Boulevard. Is there anyone in the council who would like to pull any of these items? Anybody in the public? 6, 7, and 8. Okay, we'll entertain a motion to approve 4, 5, 9, and 10.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Mauer.
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Acton.
Aye.
4 approved, 1 absent.
Okay, item number 6, Mr. Spear. And Dave, you asked for it to be pulled. Can you address those concerns?
Yes, thank you. This caught me by surprise here. This may have been discussed somewhere else, but I didn't see it, and I didn't get a chance to look this over. Where is this drainage district, and why do we need it?
Well, 6, 7, and 8 are all they all deal with the former Horton tract up on the west side of College Heights Boulevard, and it's the tracks are the three different phases of that Horton track. And number 6 is to create the fund that we could actually receive the money from number 7, which is the drainage district that would be created. Will be created in the next in subsequent at subsequent meetings. And then number 8 is actually an extension of the existing landscaping lighting district.
Okay, so it would just include, they would just be formed in that district? It's not citywide?
No, just for that,
Okay,
the former Horton tract in all of its phases.
yeah, okay, thank you. And Madam Mayor, on the public comment, I'm not going to ask for any more time, but the lady was getting up, and I thought she was coming up for public comment. So I sat and waited, thinking that she was coming up for that. So double check, please, in the future.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so are you, were those all answered for you, Mr. Matthews, 6, 7, and 8? Okay. Is there any other questions on those items?
I move approval of 6, 7, and 8.
Second. Councilmember Mauer.
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Acton.
Aye.
4 approved, 1 absent.
Okay, discussion and other action items, nomination appointment to the City of Ridgecrest Personnel Commission. Mrs. Ford?
Our municipal code does require that we maintain a personnel commission to deal with disciplinary actions or any other employee-related actions that are contested by the employee. We had one member that was appointed originally by Councilmember Acton, who has moved out of the area, which disqualifies him as a member. So Ms. Acton has been requested to nominate a new member to the commission.
I have done so. His name is Jess Chacon. He is here this evening, but it is a member of our community. Also has a background, makes him impartial, I believe. Military, fair-minded, younger. I think it would be a very good appointment for us. And he is here to answer any questions if you have any.
Would you come forward, sir? Please. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Well, I guess we don't have any.
Chacon. First name Jess, Jess.
Well, now we know who you are, we know your face, and we thank you for your willingness to volunteer and work. It's a much-needed position, and we thank you for that. Did you want to say anything?
No, Madam Mayor, I'm just looking forward to the opportunity to serve my community and be part of the City Council.
We are much pleased with that, too, so thank you so much. I appreciate your volunteering and joining us. Thank you. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item.
Does that need to be a motion?
Oh, yes, we did. Thank you.
So move.
Second.
Councilmember Mauer.
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Acton.
Aye.
4 approved, 1 absent.
Now, number 12, approve a motion to authorize the city manager or his designee to execute a municipal service agreement, MSA, with the Timisha Shoshone tribe. Forgive me, gentlemen and ladies, for mispronouncing that. Mr. Parsons.
Mayor and members of the council, we're here tonight to discuss a subject of approval of a resolution authorizing the execution of a municipal service agreement with the Timish Shoshone Tribe. The Timish Shoshone Tribe wishes to develop an Indian gaming casino within the city of Ridgecrest and wants to utilize certain city services in the operation of this entertainment venue. This agreement would provide the city general fund with currently estimated approximately $400,000 a year and a one-time payment of $80,000. These payments are to offset city costs for performing city services to the project. The tribe has agreed to make the MSA calls for the tribe to agree to make payments of 2% of the appraised value of the development and the land, in other words, the buildings and the land, on an annual basis. This 2% appraised value would increase primarily over time, and as the buildings appraised and or new projects and new buildings were added to the project area. There's an additional payment also that the tribe has agreed to of $128,000 a year for essentially critical services such as police and fire protection, as well as any problem gambling. The offsets. Both of these amounts will increase in the future as proposed payment to the city for the future. In case we have one of the proposed projects is on the development is a hotel potentially, and if that happens, the tribe has also agreed to pay the traditional TOT tax approach, only of approximately 10% on any room stays, as it's defined in the industry, as well as joining our RCVB Tourism Board district and paying its assessment. The agreement is for 20 years. It's to commence at the beginning of the casino operations or entertainment venue operations. The payment will offset the loss of property tax and sales tax due to the federal status of the land upon which the development will sit. In this case, what will happen is the land will be essentially purchased by the developer, as I understand it, and then transferred to the tribe, who will then send it to the Department of Interior Bureau of Indian Affairs, who will hold the property in trust for the tribe. So it will become federal property, much like the base. I have two slides for you that I wanted to go through real quickly. The first one is the city benefit calculations I mentioned before. Essentially, what we're talking about is what the base does here locally for the county. Doesn't do it for the city, unfortunately. We didn't ask for it. But it is a PELT, essentially is what it is, payment in lieu of city normal property and sales tax. And again, we talked about it being 2%. We've worked with them to present to you the agreement has a 2% of the land and building assessments per year, value per year. What would happen is the city would have the option of asking for a new appraisal if we felt that the choice of appraisal, if we felt that there was a need for there was an increase in the value of the property. Obviously, if they build a new structure or something else that would cause the increase in value, then it would might ask for that to set that increase that value. The annual payment is the city's critical payment services. We talked about it's set at $128,000. That has also a CPI attached to it increase. As the CPI goes up, that number will increase. So over time, those two numbers will increase radically. If indeed the project meets their hopes, with that 2% could end up generating approximately $1 million to $1.5 million at the cap, is what we're estimating. My office is estimating if they build everything that they're talking about over the next probably a 4 or 5 year period, depending on their plans and when they might do that. And of course, obviously, the success of the casino over time. The other item that we have is a one-time payment, which is for police cruisers and other equipment associated for the police, which is essentially $80,000. That's a one-time payment. If I could have the next slide, please. The currently estimated city revenue, as I mentioned before, the property and sales tax offset, the estimated building and land value for this project when the casino, when built, would be $13,393,000. That's the estimate we have at the moment. That would be 2%, or essentially $267,860 a year. That's what that 2% relates to. We have an annual payment of critical services, which would equal $128,000 per year. And so the total annual city-generated general revenue, from the MSA would be $395,860 a year as we initiate the project. Like I said before, as if they were to expand the project, add a hotel, add another plan in phase 3 or 4 is to build a theater, a large theater here, which would serve for, and I'm talking about a traditional kind of theater, not a movie theater. That would obviously number would increase as that goes. I put a note down there which I found interesting. I actually looked at we have essentially at 100,000 a retail square feet retailer in town, just to give you a concept. They generate $375,000 in revenue to the city. So this would be bigger revenue generating than our largest retailer in town. So just to give you an example, it's a significant benefit to the city. We also in the MSA, we've looked at many, we spent quite a bit of time working with the tribe and their developer, Nigel White, which I would like to mention is here tonight and be glad to answer questions if you will. Nigel is their developer, and we've been very pleased to have. I'm pleased to have several of the tribes here, council here to also represent the tribe. So there's a real interest on the tribe in doing this. The tribe is actually based. I think their tribal lands traditionally is out of Death Valley area, and so. They fit this is within their tribal area, so that's one of the reasons they're looking here for us, and I do appreciate their concern. The tribe and its developer came to the city and initiated this action and asked to have us consider the location of this facility here. One thing I might point out, within the MSA, it does talk about a proposed site. I want to make sure potential site, which is obviously it's been involved before in discussion. That site is a potential site. We do hope that that is the one that's finally selected from a revenue standpoint for the city. We do intend to have that item, the sale of that real estate property, separately in the next meeting, regular scheduled meeting, and you'll have an opportunity to discuss the benefits and the option of whether you wish to sell that land as the successor agency, not as a city, as a successor agency to the tribe's developer, actually. And that will come for council next time, just so you know. However, the MSA is not dependent on the property. They're not directly connected. So essentially, if the tribe chose to buy a private piece of property in town, anywhere within the city boundary, and develop their project there, the MSA would apply. If the tribe chose to go to the county or next door or to BLM land or some other land, which I'm very pleased they have not considered and are not considering at this time, that the MSA would not apply and the city would not get any revenue from that establishment at that point. If it was in the county, probably the county would be more than happy to enter in such agreement. If it was in the BLM land, it would be just federal land initially, so that wouldn't account. So that's my quick report to start with. Again, I can introduce to you Nigel White. If you have questions, I'll have him come up and answer those questions for you as well, and perhaps we can start the discussion. I suspicion there might be a discussion tonight about this, so we'd be glad to try to answer the questions and try to provide the steps that we have worked on in terms of agreement and location and some of to try to solve most of the issues that we could foresee. So with that, I'll answer any questions for the council that they might have.
So I'm heading this time.
Any? Lori? Okay, we all have said here we don't have any comments. We reserve the right for comments, and we would like to hear yours first. I know there's going to be a long line. I know there's going to be a lot of comments, and I hope that you will keep it I'm going to say 90 minutes. And if you can, and please don't repeat each other, make your points. If you want to and feel the need to do so, I'm certainly not going to cut you off. But I would like you to keep to the point. And I want to say something, but I'm going to wait a little bit till I start hearing some of your comments. So who would like to come up first? You put your hand up first, so go ahead, and then Mr. Neal, if you would come in after this. If you wish to make comments and stand in line, you're more than welcome, or we'll let you do however you want to. Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to say thanks for the council for your patient work on this, and to the Timbisha people. I understand that's how you pronounce it. Is that correct, sir?
I believe so.
Timbisha. Anyway,
Can I
welcome
ask-
to Ridgecrest. Glad to see you.
Can I ask you to identify yourself, please? Thank you.
Yes, indeed. My name is Scott Leahy, and for any people who want to bomb me, I'm at 128 North American Street. Write it down. I come here to speak in general support of this idea. We've been battling it around on the internet for a few days. It sort of was sprung on us. But what I wanted the question that I really would like to get out is, can we find an accord where the city and the tribe can come to an agreement about an attractive, pleasant, beautiful development, a jewel in our city, as opposed to a Butler building with crackheads hanging out? You know, if we can, it's like I was talking today to a fellow who's from Washington State. He's got a lot of experience. In fact, he's Native American. He's got a lot of experience with the casinos up there. The Native American casinos that they have built are showpieces, beautiful places, very good rapport with the community. It's beneficial to the community. It's beneficial to the various tribes that have done that up there. So I urge people here not to just go falling off the cliff with, panic, oh, it's going to ruin our city. I really don't think it will, particularly if we can get involved cooperatively so that, it's not adversarial, but we are all working together to try to build something that's really beautiful, which is right now a piece of dirt basically sitting there that's been sitting there for 20 years unused in a development that nobody wants to build at. We have somebody who wants to come. I hope we can reach a fair accord. Please be forward-thinking. The objections that I've heard, the best objections I've heard are, don't back us into a corner. So we are going to, as a city, be having to pay for, money coming out of our pocket in order to support by way of infrastructure, services, policing, whatever. So let's be smart about that. But if we can build something beautiful, I'm for it. So I wanted to get my voice heard. Thank you so much. Thanks,
Scott.
everybody. Welcome, Timbisha.
Scott, I have one correction for you. That land's been sitting there for over 30 years.
Okay, man, you got me. You nailed me.
Good evening. My name is Mike Neal, and I handed out some information that this whole agenda item is a very long, multi-page, lots of stuff in it. So I pulled out a few things that I just wanted to highlight here. I'm going to try to be brief, Mayor.
Thank you.
Closed session that's been going on I was informed last week for 3 meetings and so forth. That's about the sale of these particular lots. Now, if you look on into the service agreement, it says the tribe wants to develop an Indian gaming casino within the city, and they want to utilize certain city services. You go into the actual resolution itself. It says the resolution approves, and this is only to approve the municipal services agreement itself. However, going on further on under the actual agreement and its recitals, down where it talks about they're having consultations with federal, state, city officials, it says in that paragraph, the tribe has selected and will acquire a parcel of land in the city. And then it goes on in the next paragraph to say the tribe has offered to enter into an agreement with the city before any land goes into trust. And then further on in, I think it's page 2, the agreement, here's all the stated support by the city in this agreement. The third paragraph in that page says, whereas the city is capable of and willing to provide a full range of municipal services for the use of the tribe's trust land, so forth and so on. So they want to do this. They're stating this in this agreement. And at the same time, in the past here, for the past 6, maybe 8 weeks, they've been talking to them about selling them the property. On page 10 of the agreement, it says more about the support for the trust application, which has to happen so that the casino can be built on the property. So the city is going to support this full out. They're going to try to make it happen. And they also have Exhibit D, which says in 2 paragraphs, we're writing this letter in support of the feeder trust application for the parcel described in Exhibit A. Okay, so that ties this closed session discussions directly to this agreement. Now, the mayor and I had a discussion about, well, whether this decision has already been made to sell the property. Well, they claim it's not, but it sure sounds like it if you read this and look at the language here. So I'll leave it to people to decide for themselves whether this deal has already been decided on. A couple of points here about just having the casino in Ridgecrest, or in the valley for that matter. People that weren't here years and years ago, remember there was a big thing over a casino proposed for Inyakern. All kinds of people did not want it. It went away because I think they saw that there was just too much, not wanting it here in the valley by the citizens. Now, what they've already pointed out in a prior slide is they're going to pay us $80,000. Seems like a lot for a police car, but they're going to pay us money to buy another police car. Well, why would that be? Maybe they think there's going to be more crime problems in town and we need an extra police car. And guess what? The chief's going to come around wanting to hire another police officer. So where's that? Oh, I don't know. It's $200,000, $250,000 all total for salary and bennies and everything else, plus more drain on the retirement fund the city has to fund and everything else. But the worst of it is, clearly, Walmart didn't say they were paying us extra money to buy another police car because they're coming into town, but this casino developer is. So just think what that says, okay? Do we want more crime in this town? Is it worth this money? Well, guess what? I'm not willing to incur more crime in the town for a few bucks. And I don't want to see that happen. The other thing is the water situation, which some people are aware of. The state has had us now under an additional 35% curtailment of water use. And yet we want to encourage these large developments, which are just going to make us use more water. And the state told us last Friday, if we don't get our act together, they're going to come down and take the situation over, and they're going to make it happen. How in the world do you plan on letting this casino come in without using any water? Because when you're under a you can't draw the aquifer down at all kind of a mandate, you can't add any water users. So please explain that one.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Stevens. I graduated over 10 years ago with my master's in urban planning before moving here 4 years ago and becoming a mom. I'm a stay-at-home mom now. But I wanted to distribute you guys some information. I did some research. So as I said, this is what my background is in. I've also done some traffic studies for casinos in Kansas City before we moved. So I'm familiar with doing research on these sort of things. I just laid out a quick fact sheet. There's some out there on the table if anybody wants some. But based on my quick research, I was able to find numerous articles. I included for you all summary excerpts from those articles. And they're from places like the Washington Post, Forbes, the National Bureau of Economic Research, They include things saying that, 8 to 10% increase in substance abuse, bankruptcy, suicide, theft, violent crimes, and larceny. They equate that to a $65 to $70 per person per year increase in requirements for things, like he was saying, of police that we'll need. So I took that number, 65 to 70, and multiplied it by our population to come up with $2 million. So $400,000 per year does not cover $2 million per year out-of-pocket expenses for the increase in crimes, as well as it says in some of the articles that 90% of tribal casino visitors live within 100 miles of the casino. So the idea that this is a resort or a destination feature is not true, is what they found in studies. They actually find that it's siphoning money from local businesses and hotels and other establishments, movie theaters. People are now using, instead of using their funds for eating out at restaurants, they're spending it on gambling. In addition, there's a 4 to 10% decrease in property values in the neighboring areas. So that probably won't make too many people very happy. Some other negative impacts: increase in DUIs, because I'm assuming it will be serving alcohol, divorce, child spousal abuse, business closures, pollution, air, light, noise, foreclosures on homes because people won't be able to make their house payments anymore, prostitution and sex trafficking as well. And these are all basic searches, non-religious sources, so I don't want you to think that that's my standpoint. But I just really would like you guys to seriously consider that though we would be receiving some money in, the negative socioeconomic benefits that this would have on our town. Thank you.
I'm going to ask if you would not applaud. I appreciate if you just want to raise your hand so I understand that we understand that you agree with what was said. That would be sufficient if that's all right with you. Thank you.
My name is Lynn Whitcomb, and I pastor Cornerstone Bible Church in town, but my purpose for speaking to you is to actually relate a very, very, very personal story that is going on with me right now with an Indian casino, and it involves my elderly father. He's going to be 90 years old this August, and the last couple of years he's declined mentally and shows symptoms of dementia. And he's been going to the Pechanga Indian Casino down in Temecula. And as his dementia has increased, so has his trips to the Pechanga Indian Casino. And in 1 year, this man who lives on $1,200 a month Social Security has gone through $80,000, and it's at Pechanga. What he does is he goes there and he gets cash advances on his credit cards, runs up his credit cards, and then he ends up paying them off with a reverse mortgage on his house. And he's now maxed out his reverse mortgage. And as his sons, we've been trying to help him. We've hired a private investigator, and we've uncovered a very dark side of the casino industry that you all need to know about because it's affecting my family right now. So what has happened with my dad is there's a ring of prostitutes. They happen to be Asian in this particular case. Obviously, that doesn't have to be the case, but they're in their 40s, 60s, and they hang around the tables around older men like my dad. They blow them kisses, massage them, and men like my dad are very weak. They toss them chips. And so we've got private investigators' reports. We've taken out a restraining order against one woman in particular, found out there's another one. We went to the casino and asked them if they would help us, and they said no. My dad is an adult, and he can do whatever he wants with his money, even though California state law, the elder abuse statute, defines this as elder abuse, but the casino refuses to help. We went to the Temecula Police Department, and they refused to serve a restraining order on the property of an Indian casino. So this is really, really personal for me and my family. We don't know where this is going to go. So thinking of the $267,000 per year, that is generated by people gambling, and that population includes people like my dad who are weak in their dementia perhaps, and then their weakness is being exploited by elements that are hovering just within the boundary of the law, they think. So please keep this in mind. There are faces behind the money, and gambling does not lead to better lives. It leads to damaged lives. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Just raise your hand so we can see. Thank you.
My name is Brian Bunce, and I have two quick questions, and I was hoping that they could be answered. They're very simple questions, one by the council and one by this gentleman. Would that be acceptable?
Certainly, if we can.
All right.
Yes.
I was wondering if there's a destination or plans for the tax money, where the destination for the tax money, if there's a rudimentary plan for the tax money yet.
It would go in the general fund.
Just the general fund. There is no specific destination for it, like schools or nothing like that, just the general fund. Thank you. As for the hiring for the casino, is that going to be strictly from the Indian tribes itself?
The answer to that question is the tribe reserves the right to I'm trying to think of the word, I'm sorry, to basically the tribal members could be selected first. However, it does plan on hiring local residents because the amount of employees will exceed the tribe's capacity, essentially, to do that. And I'm looking over their shoulder to make sure I'm saying this correctly, but basically the tribe members don't have enough people in the tribe to serve the needs of the casino. The number of employees for the casino is a significant number, and when you look at the multiplier last time, it was a significant benefit as well. We haven't mentioned that yet because it's not a direct number in the MSA, but the number of employees that will be hired will be, I believe we were talking 100 to 200 employees, correct, in that number? That's about right? 150 plus. Okay, so I was right. 100, 200 is 150. 150 new employees for the casino operation. Just for the casino operation. We still, and if they hire, if they expand to do the hotel and the theater, that number will go up as well.
All right, thank you.
My name is Bill Logan. I'm the pastor at Emmanuel Baptist Church, and I speak for our church and the elders of our church that we are adamantly opposed to the casino coming to our community. And I just want to share two stories of my experience. One, I served for many years in San Bernardino, and San Manuel Indian Bingo is very popular there in San Bernardino. And I had the opportunity to counsel a young father who was trying to raise his family, provide for his family, that was an employee of San Manuel Bingo. And on payday, he would take his check and cash it in at the bingo facility and gamble away his paycheck. And this young father was absolutely broke and addicted to gambling. And then the second story I want to share is about my mom. Lynn, I appreciate you sharing about your father. My mom has a gambling addiction, and she has lost everything. And if you would talk to her today, she would say that she's in denial over her addiction. And the only thing that prevents her from getting to the casino today is that she is physically unable to get out of the house now. So as you look at income that the casino may be able to contribute to the city, that might help the city budget, but this is going to be a detriment to the families of our community. And so I would strongly encourage you to oppose this casino.
Thank you. Please, no applause, just raise your hand, we're seeing. Thank you.
Hi, Denny Roberts, resident of Ridgecrest for quite a while. I had a question and a concern. I've been, we travel around quite a bit. You live in Ridgecrest, you have to. And you see a lot of these casinos, and I know some of the communities have had problems where they've come in and built this Las Vegas-style casino with the big flashy lights and signs and all that. And I wonder if there's any agreements that we have with the tribe as to if they would adhere to our ordinances, like having to do with signs and things like that. I don't think they legally have to. It's considered, they're exempt from all the local laws, basically, like that. So I just wonder if there's been any agreements that they would follow that, follow building codes in the city, that sort of thing, because I don't believe they have to.
If I could help you answer that question for you a little bit. First of all, the casino and the tribe are required, much like the base we have here in town, to follow NEPA. They will have to go through a NEPA review and environmental review as well. So they will have to have that. It's just not the current CEQA process we have here at the state level. The answer is that in the agreement, in the MSA, it does agree that the tribe agrees to utilize and build their facility according to our local building codes and follow those and pay us the fees and other structures. So that's if I can answer your question, that would be it.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes, Tim Singleton, resident of Ridgecrest since 1980. A lot of my concerns have been voiced already. I'm against a casino coming in. I've only heard a few days ago that this was a possibility of happening. It puts it really just a few blocks away from where our home's at, and that's a concern, what the neighborhood would be. I thank you for your statistic that you had there that shows that there indeed is a crime rate that goes up. The amount of people that don't have enough money as it is, you voiced that, families with children that will go without something to eat because mom and dad's being tempted by a casino down the street. So it's really that concerning that to me it's almost like the city, like we're going after the love of money is the root of all evil, that we're seeking that. I understand that we're in times that we need answers for paying taxes and so forth and keep our city going. But let's think of something else. Let's look at something else. We have to go out and buy a few hundred acres, and yes, it takes money, and put down a 200-acre field of solar, invest in something that could come back. But a casino, to me, is, and I've seen, because I've traveled with the military to the Las Vegas area almost every year for probably the last 15 years or so. And you see it all over. You see the prostitutes on the corners. You see people laying in the gutters. So to me, I just hope that Ridgecrest would be against it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Wayne Porter. I'm a resident here of Ridgecrest and also pastor of China Lake Baptist Church. And I do want to speak from a spiritual perspective because I think that's very important. Do we want to risk the displeasure of God just for $395,000 a year? I think that would be a question that would need to be considered in your deliberating about this. You've heard lots of statistics here tonight, and there's a lot more statistics that are very readily available if you just want to do a little research about them. There's all kinds of personal stories about that. But as the last gentleman just said, the love of money is the root of all evil, according to the Scriptures. And we know that gambling is fueled by several different sins, and I just want to mention these, and I hope that you will consider all this. Of course, I'm sure you're all familiar with the Ten Commandments. Covetousness fuels gambling, period. No question about that. And the 8th commandment is about thou shalt not steal. Let me just mention a few of the sins that fuels the success of gambling. And if it was not for these sins, gambling would not be successful. Materialism, covetousness, discontentment, exploitation. I'm sure that all of you know that the majority of the people that are gambling are people that can't afford it. They're the ones that can least afford it. Lottery tickets are bought by the majority of them, and this is all, the statistics are all there to prove this, are bought by people that can least afford it. Laziness, it promotes that. It promotes distrust in God and His provisions, and it sure doesn't promote us to be good stewards of that which God has given us. And I think unto whomsoever much is given, much is going to be required. And you, as the city council and as our government officials, I think you have a big responsibility. And I think personally that you'll give an account to the Lord for the decisions you make as far as our city government. And so this is a very, very big decision. And I think spiritually you ought to consider that. And you ought to ask yourself this: is it worth $395,000 to bring in all the things that's going to come with the $395,000, including the displeasure of God for our city? And to me, it's very hypocritical for a government, whether it be federal, county, or city, to, I'm just going to have to read this here because I want to say it exactly like I wrote it down, but it's pretty hypocritical for a government to invite people to make bad decisions and then to profit from them making those bad decisions. And if we approve this casino, we're going to be given our stamp of approval for people to make bad decisions. This city is already full of all kinds of people that make bad decisions, and we pay for that. And we're going to encourage them to make more, and then the city is going to profit off the bad decisions that we've encouraged them to make. So I think those are some things that you ought to consider.
Thank you.
Hi, Tim Fox, Naval Air Weapons Station, China Lake. I just wanted to point out that there are a few military compatibility concerns, mission compatibility concerns with the favored site. It is beneath a instrument approach corridor, and it's about 10,000 feet off the end of the runway. It's within the 65 CNEL, and so within that noise contour zone, a casino or an entertainment venue such as that is considered compatible. However, a concert hall or that type of venue is considered compatible, but we would recommend that a noise reduction or a noise attenuation be built into the architecture of a certain level. When you get to hotels are not considered compatible in the 65 CNEL unless there's overriding community considerations, such as there's nowhere else to build it. And if a hotel were to be built in 65, we would also recommend noise attenuation in the architecture for that as well. And the other thing I wanted to mention too is I noticed, I believe the site is within your general plan's military influence area, and just looked at this briefly today, but I don't think that the uses that are being proposed are consistent with the military influence area. And since the city's gone kind of toe-to-toe with developers in the past on that, I would ask that you would consider that before you give up your land use authority on the site. Thank you. I am speaking for the Navy, yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
You say that's in an area where it's not compatible with hotels, and yet we have 2 hotels in that general area.
Yeah, they are in the 60 CNEL.
Okay, so they're slightly out.
Yeah.
Mr. Fox, you will, of course, the Navy will make its comments on the NEPA process as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Hi, Steve Boster. I'm neither opposed nor in favor of it this time. I don't think we know enough. And I'm a little bit offended that City Council would consider making such a major decision for the community with basically a day's notice. First I heard about this was in the newspaper yesterday.
Wait, please
So
wait.
I don't know enough information. I don't know if the City Council knows enough information, but I certainly know I don't have enough information. My wife and I own property adjacent to the proposed location. I'd like to have more information about it before I can say I'm in favor or against it. So I hope you would consider that and postpone a decision until the community's had a chance to make some discussions. Thank you.
I wasn't going to say anything, but let me say this right now. As you all know, that Councilman Sanders is not here. He was not able to be here. We had asked each other through our clerk whether there was a possibility of postponing the decision till next week when we have a special session next Wednesday with one item on it, this item. Councilman Sanders wanted to be here and speak to it. We wanted you to have enough time to continue to look at it and make your comments to us. I think I've gotten, I don't want to exaggerate, but I felt like 1 million phone calls, but I think it was probably only 25. But still, so I was going to announce this afterwards, but since you brought it up, I want to address your concerns in that. And I'm going to ask council for their approval if they agree at that time when we're all done here. So I don't know. All I did was send out the request, and everyone responded to Rachel so we didn't have any Brown Act violations. So I don't know what they all think. Okay.
Hello, my name is Brian Danielson, local resident here in Dennis. I am opposed to the casino. I think that its location right out in front of, you come right out of the base or you go right into the base and you're going to be seeing it. I know we don't have a whole lot of sailors, young sailors at this base, as you do at some Navy bases, but you're going to be tempting these young men that do come and work here. You're, in addition to tempting people that are in our normal community here that would be spending that money in town on things that we would be getting sales tax from, we would be getting other sources of revenue from. And the estimated building and land value being the $13 million is just a drop in the bucket to what they estimate what their how much they're going to be the income that they are going to be generating and how much money is actually going to be coming in to a casino. So I really feel that the detriment to the community in its entirety has been well stated by others, so I'm not going to restate that. But as a member of this community, as a professional paying taxes, things along that line, I really do discourage the idea of having this right out in front of the base and on our main corridor, where everybody's going to go by it every day and they're going to be tempted to go in. So it's a concern. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Melanie Bunce. I have lived here for most of my life. I have also lived in large cities where I have been near casinos and have not found an instance where I have felt like my children were in a good environment living near casinos. I would like to read a letter that a friend of mine wrote to the editor a couple of years ago, back in 2001, when this issue was up again. It is not very long, but she is not here to read it herself, so I would like to inform this community of it. And I very much agree with this. I am strongly opposed to the construction of a casino in our valley. If we want positive growth and development in this area, we must look at other options. From a personal and moral standpoint, I feel that introducing a gaming facility into this area is wrong. I also cite a study of the National Opinion Research Center at the University of Chicago and its partners that further illustrated my opposition to any casino proposal. Issued in April of 1999, the Gaming Impact and Behavior Study sampled 100 communities in close proximity to a gaming facility. It also conducted 10 community case studies. Under the highlights section, 2 points regarded the impact of casinos on communities that caught my eye. First, the study found that per capita income stayed the same, indicating communities did not reap more jobs, but not necessarily better jobs. There also appeared to be more of a shift in the types and locations of work rather than a net improvement in the local standard of living. Second, there was a wide perception among community leaders that living in a close proximity to a gaming facility tended to relate to an increase in, didn't bring my glasses, an increase in indebtedness, youth crime, forgery, and credit card theft, domestic violence, child neglect, problems with gambling, and alcohol and drug addiction offenses. NORC also reported in their case studies sections that social services staff from several communities saw an increase in family stress due to gambling. I'm in favor of increasing our local standard of living, decreasing crime, and reducing family stress. However, I don't believe that introducing a casino into our area would accomplish any of those things. I tend to agree. I have had 4 kids successfully graduate from Burroughs, leave here, and are becoming successful adults. I still have 1 child here to raise. I do not want to raise her not living far from where this proposed site is, with a gambling area that close at hand, increasing the crime in my neighborhood, and having to deal with all the drug and alcoholic addictions and gambling addictions that will bring onto this community, and the cost that it will bring to this community. Not just the increase in revenue, but the cost that it's going to cost to take care of the medical services, the police services, the social services. Those things need to be taken into account, not just the revenue. What's it going to cost? Where's the bottom line being driven? What is our return on investment? Thank you.
Thank you.
Marilyn Neal, and thank you for taking your time to listen to us all. I appreciate the things that have been said, the stories that have been shared, and much of what I had has already been stated. However, I thought it was quite interesting that just this last week or two, there was a huge report that just came out, put out by the Rockefeller Institute on Government, and the report is called the Blinken Report. And in the Blinken Report,
could you say that name again,
the
please?
Blinken Report.
Blinken?
Blinken, Blinken, I believe it is.
Thank you.
And I just, I realize that there are studies, there are opinions here and there, statistics can be skewed. However, I thought this was really interesting, and I'm not particularly a fan of Rockefeller Foundation, but this is a report that was taken it took into consideration many other studies, and the findings were that compounded annual growth over between 2008-2015 for casinos was negative 4.4 in the older casino states, because there's what they call saturation, there's what they call cannibalization, because once you have a certain number of casinos there, then it's like that's as many as you can handle, and from one state to the next. And I don't understand all of the details of it, but I would suggest that you read the report. It's easy to find online. But the one thing that I really noticed too, specific to they covered every kind of gambling. But the one thing I noticed too was that Indian casinos in 7 states that reported for primarily Indian casino gaming. And Florida is one of those 7, but it's set aside for, they have some other kind of agreement. But the decline between 2008 and 2015 was 6.6%. And that's with inflation adjustment and all of that. 42.5 million or 4% out of the 4 or 5 or 7 states. The other thing, I was going to read you their conclusion. Basically, their conclusion was, and I don't know that I can get this again, basically their conclusion was that it's a temporary fix at best. But in the long run, it's detrimental to any society. It's detrimental economically, morally, society-wise. So the other thing that I wanted to mention is this. We live in a community where we have sons and daughters who have gone to war. They've gone to war for our liberty, for us to have the choice. I don't deny someone their choice. If they want to go gamble, let them go gamble. But when they have fought so that we could build our lives, so that we could have the liberty to live in a free nation and build a society, and then we bring in something that is known. And I read this Blinken report. I read many other things all over the internet on reports. They all agreed. Every one of them, all the reports. It doesn't matter if you've got a little rise here in economic growth or whatever, or decline here. Every one of them said, this is a big problem. They all said, there's so much extra cost that can't even be calculated in the lives of people. Over and over and over, I read that. And this was not, religious sources. This was secular sources, religious sources, all of them. There's so much degradation in a community that happens that can't even, and at the end of I'm sorry, I lost what I was going to read to you from the Blinken report, their conclusion. But basically they were saying, there's so much that's uncalculable. You can't count the cost in lives. If we want to build our community, let's not do it at the expense of our children. We are prostituting ourselves. We're prostituting our children and our children's children to sell out. I believe we are selling ourselves out if we go this route when there are so many other options. We can bring in industry that builds our community, that doesn't leech off of, suck off of our children. And one last thing, two last things. What are we telling our children about how to find their entertainment or how to get their finances? If we as a community think we've got to sell out in order just to get enough money to pay for our roads, what are we saying to our children? So they're not at the casino because they're under 18. We're saying to them, you don't have to do honorable, hard work producing something. You can go get rich or satisfy your lust, your pleasures, your whatever on the backs of someone else. That's going to have generational effects on Ridgecrest. It will totally change the face of this community for years to come. Now, I realize tonight that we're really talking about the MSA, and my vote is please, 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 do not pass this MSA, not now or later, because if they don't build by the front door of the base, they'll build somewhere else. But in this valley, we don't need to get rich or even survive that way. And I'll leave you with this. And I appreciated Pastor Porter bringing up the points that he did, because we really can't. I don't care how hard you want to separate this from morality. We can't. You're going to have to pay the price sometime, now or later, if you make the wrong decisions. The Word of God says, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any nation. Proverbs 14:34. It also says, Proverbs 14:31, he who oppresses the poor reproaches his maker, but he who honors has mercy on the needy.
Thank you. Okay, please, please, no clapping. Raise your hands, that way we can see it. Otherwise, it only looks like one of you agree, and I know that's not true.
I'd like to raise my hand and ask, is this being timed?
We are not. I said we'd like to do it for 90 minutes.
No, I mean, the individual speakers, are they being timed?
The only time we restrict it is under public comment in the beginning. Okay, please.
My name is Frances DeRosa, and I've been here since 1972.
Ma'am, pull the mic down so we can hear you better.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Frances DeRosa. I wear reading glasses, and your Exhibit A, can you show that on the screen where it really is? Because I have no idea what this means.
I don't believe we have that. I'll let the IT guys work their miracle and see if they could come up with that. It was.
I mean, it says 1 inch equals 100 feet. I can't read anything on it.
Perhaps I can help you a little bit in describing it, since I'm not sure we have a visual for that.
Okay.
But it is 26.4 acres. It runs from essentially the base's gate. Front gate.
Okay, front gate of on China Lake Boulevard.
On China Lake Boulevard. It's
all the way to where?
All the way to next to the credit union. Correct.
Union.
And then it goes back to the street, which
Yeah,
is McLean Street, that property.
Where's the
That's
base
what it is.
entrance?
Right over here is the base entrance.
Because it shows here. It says here,
It's basically all vacant property at this point that has street improvements
Okay,
around it.
have you thought about what impact you'll have on the base,
There it
being
is
right
up
next
here.
door
Thank
to
you.
it?
Thank you. My IT
There
guys
is-
are miracle workers as usual.
There's 5,000 people that work on the base. What
The-
impact will it have on them?
The answer to that is what I asked Mr. Fox again, is the base, under the NEPA process, the base will have an opportunity to comment on the environmental impacts it has relative to the development during the NEPA process, or the environmental process is required of all federal agencies. It's the same process if the base expands or does something else on it. It has the same environmental requirements that this organization would, because essentially it is on federal land and it is under the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Well, I do have concerns what would happen, the impact on the base with all their employees and all. And if the base goes away, the casinos are not going to survive in our town. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Boster, and I own Pack Rat. I am directly impacted by this because my lot on McLean Street, directly at the end of Graff, sits on a parcel adjacent to where you're planning to put this. So I think I have a real good perspective on it. My concern is actually twofold. First, I welcome any new business into Ridgecrest, especially since we've seen some who have closed recently. As a 25-year-old business owner, I would not want anyone to tell me how I could run my business. However, when we bought in the business park, we were told, was for business-oriented companies only. 4 sectors. One was service, which I am. One was industrial. One was corporate, such as a business office. And one was medical. I can't see how a casino fits any of those criteria unless you've changed those, that criteria in your original documents. So I think you should start thinking about that as well. And I would encourage our council to take time to really figure out where you're going with this. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could comment quickly for Mary's purposes. The answer is this is not the real estate transaction going on tonight. As I mentioned earlier, the real estate transaction will occur after this process is completed, and we're looking at the first meeting in May. So you'll have an opportunity to comment on the real estate transaction you're commenting on now during that next meeting. In terms of the restrictions you're talking about, we've had some comments about that before. Unfortunately, the state of California did away with those restrictions. They essentially, when the redevelopment agencies were shut down, and in California, this agency was as well, all of the conditions and requirements associated with that were also gone. So the only way, what we did was we asked for what is called a PMP, which is a property management plan that was associated with the shutdown of the RDA. And what that happened was there was a plan developed that was to dispose of the properties. The state's position was sell it any way you can and go to auction for any item you want, any way you want. So the city asked that we have the ability to handle the sale of those properties as a city under the RDA, okay, under the auspices of the successor agency. So what we did is we tried to save the opportunity to have an auction out there, and the lowest bidder or the highest bidder gets the land. He can do what he wants with it. So just so you know on this land transaction, but again tonight is not about the land transaction, just so you know. It's about the MSA. So, okay, clearly.
We aren't going to ignore your questions. There will be what we can give you tonight answers. Go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Jessica Roberts. I'm a healthcare provider here in town. I know we're short in time, so I'm going to be speaking kind of fast. So I'm from the Southeast, actually. I moved out here a few years ago. And there was a similar situation. A casino was built in Wetumpka County, a very conservative community in Alabama. And so I did a little investigation, and I thought this would be a good comparative study for us, since here we are at a similar junction. And there was, of course, people opposing it, people for it. So Alabama Policy Institute came up with this very well organized document that went through and looked at the economic cost, the social cost, the crime. And so I'm going to just real quick do some overview on it, and then I'd like to leave it with you to review. Some of these things have already been addressed by people who went before me, such as the long-term effect of cannibalizing their local economies. It may provide an initial boost per capita income, but then the effect wears out, and then any additional gains in revenue come at the cost of other local businesses and industries. Also, it's been seen in study after study, a lot of this money is not locally retained in the community, so it's not as much of a long-term economic boost as initially hoped for. There is what was mentioned earlier as a saturation factor, in that they said to Alabama, hey, look, you got all these casinos in Florida and Mississippi and Georgia. You don't really have a lot to offer for out-of-towners to come to you. We're in a similar situation. I think most people my age, hey, I'm young and single. I love a nightlife. I didn't move to here for a nightlife, obviously, but I love this town. And so I don't think you're going to be really attracting people to come here because we can offer them all these new venues and nightlife entertainments. Most people my age would probably still rather go to Vegas or LA if they want that kind of environment. Moving on. Also, we talked about the jobs. Yes, there will be an initial boost in the jobs, but let's consider the type of jobs. They're not all created equal. As was said in the study, casinos don't grow skills, they don't nurture talent. Also, it is an inevitable fact you will have an increased amount of pathological and problem gamblers. As was said earlier, most of the people who will be gambling here are not out-of-towners. The vast majority of them, in fact, 90% as was seen if you live within 10 miles of a casino, are going to be the local community. And I won't sit here and quote all the stats for you. I'll let you read that for yourselves because you're intelligent enough to do that. But there's going to be quite an increase in the amount of pathological gamblers and addictions that you'll have on hand here. Now, as a healthcare provider, I can tell you we don't even have the funds and the resources necessary for the mental health problems we currently have in this town. It is incredibly hard for me to get people to Bakersfield when they need help. The suicide rates here, it's quite high for a small community, and when people are in those type of situations, it's a tremendous burden for them to get to the Mary Kay Shell Center in Bakersfield. We don't have the transport resources. If there's sexual assaults and there's 5150s, it's a horrible tax burden, a tax or a burden on our police department to transport them to Bakersfield. We're looking at shutting down our jail in June. I've heard word of that from one of my friends who is a detective in our local PD. So really, we don't have the support infrastructures in place, health-wise, police department-wise. So those are things I definitely wanted to mention. Yes, I could go over the percentages of crime, and you're going to see, you can find a study telling you what you want to find, honestly. I think that the vast majority I saw did note an increase in crime. I'm going to let you determine that for yourself. What I want to end with, though, to the tribe, I would like to say I'm sure this is very hard for you to not take this as personal rejection, and I really hope that you don't. And if there is any way we can find some alternative solution so that we can mutually benefit, let's propose that. I'm just not for a casino. I'd like to end with this quote. To move away from the culture of chance and toward policies that promote genuine economic development will mean going beyond the hype of magic bullet cures and focusing instead on incremental long-term policies. We should seek to better understand and correct the economic circumstances that have forced state and local governments to consider gambling in the first place. This process will require patience, careful analysis, and honest discussion among leaders and their constituents. The reward will be not only the protection of our economy, but a shift from the pathologies of hope to the creation of real hope. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. Do you have enough for everybody, or would you like us to take? We'll give it to Mrs. Ford, and that way
Well,
we can...
here we go again. For those who don't know me, I'm Dave Matthews. I say here we go again because Mr. Neal referred to the election that we had a number of years ago about a casino, and it was overwhelmingly rejected, as I recall. This Exhibit B that I have in my hand here, on the things that are permitted, bowling alleys, nightclubs, and a few other things which already exist in this community. And some of them are having a little bit of a struggle staying afloat. So I think those should be removed from the permitted uses, if nothing else. But I don't like the whole darn thing anyhow. One other thing that has not been mentioned tonight, these buildings are usually well lit so that you can see them for miles around. And if you don't believe me, just go out Trona Road to the top of the hill and look. You don't even have to look. You're going to be facing the lights of Las Vegas. That's what, 100 and some miles, 200 some miles away. This is if this goes through, you need to include in the things, the restrictions that they have, that they were going to use low light or night sky lighting in their facility, if nothing else. Now, I also have a quote here, which I was actually going to read in public comment just as a general quote, but I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking it's kind of apropos, maybe. It's neither the wisest constitution nor the wisest laws will secure the liberty and happiness of a people whose manners are universally corrupt. Sam Adams. He makes good beer, too.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Sean King. I'm a 3-time resident here of about 14 years. 3rd time's a charm, and 3rd time is also home. We chose to come back each time because it's a lovely community, and we do appreciate that so much. Even prior to hearing about this potential casino, my concern was with the jail closure. When we met here just recently about that. With the jail closure, this concern for transporting prisoners to Bakersfield, the upcoming expiration of Measure L and the difficulties that have been experienced with that. I read that 15 of our police officers are funded through the Measure L funds. If I'm correct with that information, if Measure L is not renewed, or even if it is, if we add this casino and the increasing crime indeed does happen, what in the world are we going to do? So I have a concern about that. Practically, the location is terrible. We love our short commute here in town, and that area is already congested with going to and from work and at lunchtime. And with that right there by the base, that area is going to be quite difficult to maneuver through. So that's one practical concern. Another concern is so many businesses in the area, are they sustainable? We aren't big enough to keep Staples open. We're not a large enough community to have Trader Joe's come in. We've seen restaurants open and close on a regular basis. I kind of jokingly, in a sad way, say, 3 restaurants will open, but 2 will close, or maybe it's 2 will open and 3 will close. If a casino is here, is the population even able to keep it open? And if it does, some others have mentioned too, to the detriment possibly of other business owners. Do we need 2 or 3 bowling alleys? So the sustainability issues is something that I see that should be looked at. Finally, the bright spot for me this evening was right at the beginning with the Economic Development Group from Texas that is wanting to come in and look at other opportunities. What can we do? What else is out there? Something that we know about our community is that we have very well-educated people who like a small town. There's so much talent in this city with all kinds of hobbies and music and so many different things. I just think, what else can we do? Can we give this development agency a chance to bring other options to the table and not rush something through? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Pat Ferris. I'm the mother of 4, grandmother of 32, great-grandmother of about 55, last count. Heavily invested in this community. I came here when I was 11 years old. My parents started the first church in their living room. I'm trying to recover from shock and being sick. I can't believe this has been sprung on us. We have enough of a crisis going on about our water. Then it throws into another crisis decision. I'm appalled. I'm sorry, but I'm appalled. We've talked about, there's so much here that there's so many negative things to bring out, and a lot of them have been brought out. But the location is not, when you think about the location, right next to the gate of the jewel in the Navy's crown, what we need to have in that vicinity is think about the future and bring the Aerospace Museum, a national treasure. We have, what sets this community apart? We have distinguished schools. Just right down the street from where you're thinking about bringing this casino, a state-of-the-art hospital. You have to stop and look twice to think what a beautiful facility we have here that speaks to this concern about health care. As has already been mentioned, we're losing our jail. We're going to have an increased demand on our police department. I don't know why we have to rush into such and think about something that's just crashed, just really crashed into us. Why aren't we, years ago, there was a consideration about bringing a prison here. We had a long session of people from the Navy. I remember our commander and council people would go visit communities that had prisons and visit the communities to see what kind of an impact it was. Why, we need to have some of our community leaders, our educators, healthcare providers, law enforcement, pastors. You need to bring these people together and look at what kind of impact, this is going to be a greater demand for our school district. There's more to overcome. If our youth is our future, let's nurture them, not undermine them. And Peggy, Madam Mayor, I appreciate your calling on God at the beginning of this, because we need him now. And I think if we want to not mock him, not try to bring something in that preys on the weak, something that is on the, Las Vegas is not called Sin City for no reason. We need to bring things in that we can ask God to bless if we want his favor. And this is going to, we've talked about branding. And if you think this isn't going to brand this community with a location you're looking at, it's going to outshine light-wise and noise-wise and everything else, anything around it. This is going to brand this community. We're making a very powerful statement. This is a patriotic community, a God-loving community, a community that has core values that are above any that you find anywhere in a community. You hear this all the time. People choose to live here because they say it's a great place to raise a family. Well, they won't be saying that after this comes, if that happens. I'm telling you, I don't want us to sell our soul for a mess of pottage. And that's what we're doing.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ryan Ziegler. I just want to say that I've grown up around casinos. I've been around them almost my whole life. And I've never experienced all these things that people are saying. I'm not saying they don't happen, but I have never experienced that myself. So I'm just here to say there is a flip side to that coin. People can also enjoy themselves and have fun at casinos. It's not all misery and despair and gloom as a result of the casino's existence. I have 3 kids myself, and in my experience, casinos can be fun places for the whole family. I just can't believe what I'm hearing here. I feel like I'm in the movie Footloose trying to convince everybody to let us have a dance. This is... I know there are many who support this, and I'm kind of disappointed. I'm kind of disappointed that more of the people aren't here tonight that are for this. People think that casino is a den of evil and it would turn Ridgecrest into Sodom or whatever. I'm just blown away by all these things I'm hearing. Everyone's so worried about people with gambling problems and stuff like that. And what happened to personal accountability? What happened to if you have a gambling problem, I mean, lots of people, and I'm not saying they don't, I'm not discounting that either. I'm saying that there's personal accountability at play here as well. What if there was a bar trying to come here? Would we be up here talking about alcoholism? Is that going to be a consideration when we talk about things like that? Of course not. So anyways, I feel like we should move ahead with this project because who knows if we'll get another opportunity like this. And one last thing, I don't mean to offend anyone, but I honestly hope that the council is able to separate the religious considerations from the civic and fiscal considerations, which I believe should be more prominent on your mind during the decision-making process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Cabria Davies, and I wasn't going to speak tonight, but the lady sitting next to me said I should mention this. I work over at the high school, and I work with the teenagers in town, and I see them every day, and I see them away from home and away from their parents, and the decisions they make, and bless them, they don't always make good decisions. And it's just kind of something that goes along with that age, and I agree. Adults are adults. You can do what you want. It is your life. I would just be concerned about the teenagers in town. When I came here to this school district, I was shocked that we did not have a nurse on campus, but we had a police officer, and it was kind of an odd mix, and I don't know that having a casino that close would be beneficial for the teenagers. I'm not saying the teenagers are going to be there all the time, but I would just like that to be taken into consideration. That's all.
Thank you.
I'm Paul Valovich again. I'm a 3-time resident of Ridgecrest, back for the 3rd time. Question for council. I've listened to all the comments. Initially didn't have an opinion, but there seems to be a lot of controversy on this. And I think one of the questions that hasn't been answered is, how did you get here? I mean, how in the world could you spring this thing on this community with such short notice? And what was the process to get here? How long has this been going on? You know, it gets back. I don't know whether we drink our own bath water or what, but as you observe for years of what's happened, how Ridgecrest has been run, this sort of goes back to the old days of hidden agendas and sleazy deals and all that stuff, which I thought we were way beyond. For you guys to spring this on this community with the information you've provided, which is for the local folks who are affected by this, is basically nothing. It's just wrong. I think you would probably gain more support if you would have been more open and given a more reasonable time frame for these very intelligent people to consider what this thing really means and weigh all the factors. And I may be wrong on this, but it appeared to me that this initial meeting was going to be a decision meeting on this. And that's absurd. That is absolutely absurd. And I have to agree with my friend Pat here that I'm not sure I'm appalled, but I think you guys screwed up big time by doing it that way.
Thank you.
Brian Bunce, thank you. I'm opposed to the casino here, in case anybody has any question about this. And if should anyone choose to go to a casino, they're more than welcome to. I'm more than welcome to have anyone have freedom of choice. And there's one 70 miles away. It's perfectly within 1 hour wait for anyone to enjoy going to a casino. So you're perfectly welcome to enjoy your freedom of gambling. So if anyone wishes to gamble, it's perfectly well within your opportunity to enjoy it. So please, if you wish to gamble, it's within your area of expertise to
Where's it at, sir?
It's in Adelanto. Huh?
Bishop's 130 miles. Adelanto is what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
So you can enjoy gambling within easy access. So please enjoy.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Jason Stoll. A bunch of things have already been mentioned as far as people that disagree. I 1,000,000% disagree with this decision. A quote in our local paper by one of the council members was at times feeling like being treated like a mushroom and not being informed. I believe our community is a bunch of mushrooms right now. We're not being informed until the last minute. We want to go through with a general decision-making process. I feel once that first initial phase is made, council's just going to keep on moving with it, and there's nothing we're going to be able to do about it or say. Or if we do say anything, it's not going to matter. It's just going through the motions to say, does anybody have anything to say? And okay, we're done. Logistically, has been brought up as far as the schools. I can't think of a worse location for a casino. The front gate to the base has been brought up, but logistically, across the street, we're going to have Emmanuel Elementary School. Down the street, we have another elementary school. We're building a brand new Murray. For what? To put next to a casino? We have a casino that'll take 18-year-olds. It's been brought up from the high school. What better way to spend your lunch hour at a casino? It's the worst location ever that I could think of. I'm against it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. He's brought up several times the NEPA process, and I don't think the people here fully understand that the NEPA process is
Wait a
performed.
minute, please. You had your opportunity to speak. Let's let everybody speak, and then.
Oh, I thought
and
I
then-
did. Sorry, he was.
And we will address some of those concerns. And if we don't address them fully to your satisfaction, please let us know.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry,
thank
he
you.
wasn't up there. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Al Huey. One, I'm kind of disappointed. I guess you anticipated there being a lot of comment on this agenda item, that you declined to allow the public to hear where the council was on this. You wanted to let the public speak, so now they have to sit there and be quiet and then hear from you guys, which I don't think was the proper thing to do. The other thing, this was presented tonight by Mr. Parsons, Economic Development, and if memory serves me right, the last council meeting, he gave a pretty good-sized presentation to the council on what was going on with economic development in the community. I don't recall this being on that list.
I think his presentation was on tab.
There was economic development in there. And this is potentially going to be a tab thing, isn't it? With
No.
if the hotel goes in? No?
Tab is bonds, so this has
Okay,
nothing to do
okay,
with
okay.
bonds.
And then I'm also surprised that you sit there and you're not going to get any other input from any other staff. In particular, in the way this MSA is written, gosh, I would have thought you would have had the police chief come up and talk to you about this.
We're not done yet.
So again, you're keeping us in the dark. The only other comments I got pretty much covered, but this is deja vu for a lot of us who were here before on this many years ago. But I don't recall any other new business coming into town that would be required to pay $400,000 a year annually to compensate the city for law enforcement and fire police, fire protection, and problem gambling support. Also, I have no idea of any other business that would be required to buy a new police car for the police department. $128,000 a year annually for additional critical municipal services. No other business I know has been required to contract to have a private ambulance provider for emergency service. No other business I know the city required that they hire local residents and train them. You talk about God and country and the moral climate of the community. I think this would be a bad decision to move forward with this, particularly with a single meeting, and particularly we have one council member absent. I'm disappointed with the council tonight on this agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
My name is Patrice Kuby. My purpose for being here tonight had to do with a project. I have my son, Alex Kuby, here. He's working towards his Eagle in Boy Scouts. And one of the things that he's working on right now has to do with citizenship in the community. And one of the things that we decided would be good would be for him to come to a city council meeting. I think this was serendipity. We weren't expecting this. Now, the most that I can say is that personally, I have heard rumors of this just in the past few days. Not that there was anything this far in the works. This is really surprising to me that this is, like I said, hearing it as a rumor. Now, I'm in school, he's in school. We do a combination of homeschooling. And he also goes to ops. This is the first that I have heard that anything like this was even on the agenda and being seriously considered for this town. Now, personally, I think everybody has their own opinion, and this is the United States. We all have the right to choose. I am very concerned about what I'm hearing here tonight. I'm happy that my son is here so that he can see both sides of this argument and understand how government works. So he's got a lot to think about tonight after he comes home from this, and we're going to discuss this. And as I said, this is part of him earning his merit badge for citizenship in the community. So I think we all should think about that. We all live here. We are all citizens of this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay.
I realize I've had my moment, but I just wanted to say one thing in agreement with those who are very disappointed in how the council has gone about with this situation. And just to say to the public, I am very grateful that my husband, Mike Neal, happened to read the agenda Friday night, for a Thursday night, Friday night, and see this item on the agenda. And had he not put two and two together about what was going on with this MSA, most of, probably a lot of you that are here wouldn't have known about the item at all, because we didn't even get a newspaper, the news service didn't even say anything about it until after we began to put the news out. One of our friends got it on Facebook. It spread. So I'll just encourage all of you and myself, we need to pay attention to what's going on, because had this MSA been passed tonight, which it very likely could have been, the whole face of this valley would have changed instantly, with everybody sleeping or watching TV or whatever we do.
Okay. Mrs. Neal, there was a lady who I didn't allow to speak because she'd already spoken. You got up, so would you please come up?
Sorry, I just wanted to explain that the NEPA process is done after these things would have already been approved, possibly even when when they're well into the development process. And the way it works is, yes, they identify potential things that would be problems, but they mitigate them. That doesn't mean that it goes away, generally. Most of the time, it just means that they mitigate those issues. So the bright lights, they might do something else to mitigate that, the cost. The environmental justice issues, it doesn't mean that the casino would go away. It means that, similar to their things like providing a police car, that's mitigation. So I just wanted you to all understand when he's pointing to NEPA that it might rule out things, it would already be well down the road when things have already been voted, things may have been sold. And also, I forgot to mention in my research is that all these monies don't necessarily just go to the sovereign nation. There are developers and people who operate the casinos that are not a sovereign nation that will benefit economically from this, despite the city not receiving the gaming taxes because they are a sovereign nation. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Kendall, I've been a resident in the area for over 40 years, off and on for a couple periods. But my personal opinion is you guys have had projects like this in the past where Ridgecrest has brought it up, has been shot down. I think this process has been intentionally short-circuited so the public would have less input to resist this particular project. And I think personally you guys have to do an ethical review of your actions to try to keep the public voice out of this operation. This is government. You guys represent the people. The people should be allowed to have their voice. You should not stifle the people's voice. And this process has caused that to happen. The moral question is one thing, but you guys personally should do an ethical search on your soul as to why you want to stifle the people's voice.
Thank you, sir. Okay, go ahead, please.
My name is Axel Alvarez. I've been here since 2000, a resident of Ridgecrest. I wasn't going to speak. I came here to ask for the support of the community for the airport and for the airline services. If I did not show up with Paul to address or request support for the airport and for the airline, I would have not had a clue this was going on. No clue whatsoever. If I am a resident of Ridgecrest and I am representing the public right now, I am not the only person that probably doesn't have a clue this is going on right now. And to know that a decision for this would potentially happen today without the public knowing about this, the public being able to have their say, that's not right. It's not right.
There was an article on the front page of the Daily Independent yesterday.
Oh, yesterday. Okay.
And the agenda was posted on Friday.
Okay. So the point I'm trying to make is I'm not the only one. And I just found out by chance because I was here asking for support of the community. So there are other folks out there, and I'm urging you to not make this decision today. There's no reason we should go into a decision of this caliber with the information that we have right now. We have zero information. The public has zero information. Let's just say benefit of a doubt. We have a little bit of information, right? We have data reports that say these are the potential things that can happen. But we've not had, as a community, the chance to absorb this, to see what the potential impact is. The money is money. This city means something to me. I have not left this city because the work that I do here means something to me. I love this place. I love flying out of Inyokern Airport. Why do we want to bring something like this to potentially take that away from us? To the tribe, I don't want you guys thinking that this is, I'm not speaking negatively to you guys. All I'm saying is, give us the chance, the public, to make our own research, to make our own decisions, to address the concerns with the council that the city has. And before I walk away, I'll say this. Just a couple of 100 or so nautical miles away, there is another Navy town called Lemoore that has a casino there. You guys should do the research and see the problems that that town is having with that casino right now. A Navy town just down the street, which many folks that travel back and forth to conduct business. See what's going on with that town. See the rate of crime, the drugs, see what's going on with that, and then make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Elaine Mead. I might ask the council as well as the tribe, before you move forward with this kind of action, maybe the tribe could give a presentation on what they're proposing. What do they want to bring to our town? I'm not for or against the prison at this point. I mean, excuse me, the casino. Maybe it is a prison, I don't know. It reminds me of the discussions on the prison. It really does. But the casino, maybe it's good. Maybe it's the location that's not right. I don't know. I think maybe if we understood a little more of what's being proposed, rather than bits and pieces, and like has been expressed, sprung on us so rapidly, that might make a difference. Maybe you would see more people here in support of it instead of everybody against it. And like I said, I'm not against it because I don't know what it is, but I'm not for it either. Just food for thought.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comment? Okay.
There were a couple others that went twice. I just want to say one thing. You know, when we did the prison, we had a vote of the community, didn't we? Wasn't that on the ballot?
Yes, it was put on the ballot.
This to me is tantamount of a major decision similar to the prison, and really should be something that our community should actually vote on rather than just have 5 people in hidden sessions making decisions on and springing this on us. I think it should be a community vote.
Thank you, sir. Other?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Jim Hoover. I'm a newcomer here. I've only been here 28 years. But I just want to say a word about unintended consequences, and tribal members too. Good evening. You know, I cannot fault legitimate business interests for wanting to pursue a better life for their needs as well. But there are always unintended consequences. You know, I do not believe that our city leadership intended to deceive us this evening. I believe that a haste to make a decision can be misinterpreted as a bad thing. So, you know, there's always unintended consequences for our actions, and wisdom from God is looking at those consequences, looking at the possibility of those unintended consequences as dividing us instead of uniting us. So I would ask that we, you know, consider the unintended consequences of gaming, which we are hearing about tonight, which are sad, and they are unintended, but they are reality. And I ask that you consider the unintended consequences of the expedience tonight as not a sign of dislove for our community, but, you know, the haste of our political process. So just a warning about unintended consequences, that we may think about those and the risk associated with those, which we're hearing about a lot tonight. So I thank you, those folks for sharing. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Jason Stoll again. Just to add, at the beginning of this meeting, it was brought up as far as an open house for city council, law enforcement, this type of thing, you know, come and get to know us. City council members were voted in by the community, I believe, unless I'm wrong somewhere, and we thought we knew you. Making decisions like this and just, it was what advertised in the paper yesterday. Sorry, but I can't have a yard sale today, but advertise it tomorrow. I can, but I can't be upset about the results. So to have something like that and say that you're stewards of our community and you represent our community, and then to make a decision without community involvement doesn't make sense to me. I don't see where the stewardship or where the representation lies.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comment? Okay, I'm going to ask some of our staff to address some of the issues, but I'd like to make a comment, a very personal one. To say that you all don't know us, then I'm sorry, but you do. You do know us. You know our heart. You see us in the community. To think that we would blow something on you like this and say, tough luck, folks, we did it. Wait a minute. Let me finish. I gave you your opportunity. Please. We brought it up because we wanted your comments. We wanted to hear what you had to say. How else would we have had that opportunity without bringing it before you? Yes, we could vote on it tonight. You bet we could. I think we'd be blessed fools to do it, but we could. But how else can we hear from you unless we hear from you? This is the opportunity for you to speak. I am not ready to make a decision tonight. I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I think we have an opportunity to listen, and you listen to us. You hear what we say. I'm not saying we're perfect, but to think that we would try to pull a cloak over your eyes, shame on you. Shame. Wait, let me finish. Our opportunity tonight was to bring it forward to you to look at, to hear what you had to say, to understand where your concerns were. You've made them very clear. We will have another meeting if the council agrees, and we will hear more. That is our job. So please allow us that opportunity without castigating us. We have one opportunity to do this right if we're going to do it. I don't imagine 1 million people are going to show up to say, let's do it again. But I don't want to throw it away. I want to learn more. I want to hear what you have to say. And other opportunities will be had for all of us. So before I ask the rest of the council, do you have some comments you want to make? Because I'd like to have staff make some comments too, please.
I was going to ask the chief. It's been
That's what I was
several
going to
things
ask.
have been brought up.
Yeah.
Chief, do you want to address some of those issues?
We did reach out to the Lemoore Casino. We had my sergeant speak with a member of the Kings County Sheriff's Department where the casino is located at. They have had some minor issues with auto theft recoveries. They've experienced people that have come from the Fresno area that are drug users. They did make some recommendations on the MSA that if it is approved, that we make sure that we have a cooperative relationship with the security at the casino. They've had some issues with investigating some incidents, so I do have a little concern with the MSA as it's written on that. I did reach out to the sheriff for Inyo County. They have the casino up in Bishop area. They don't have a whole lot of issues up there. He states that primarily they don't have a lot of issues because they have an alcohol license, which is directly connected to their casino license through the state. If they have any issues with inside, it can result in the removal of their their license. They have also experienced some public intoxication outside the casino, as well as some additional drug use. The common theme from those two locations are to mitigate it, you have to have law enforcement presence working very well with the casino staff. Otherwise, if you don't, you will have, more significant issues. Will this be a focal point for folks to come to? Yes. We will have, probably our drug users will go there as a form of entertainment, as well as many other people within the community. So it is a law enforcement issue. Can it be mitigated? Yes, as long as there's a good relationship with the casino and the police. Some of the issues I saw with the MSA, there's one in here that I'm specifically concerned about, and that is the gambling age beginning at 18 years of age. I would say at minimum, if we're going to go this route, the gambling age has to be at least a minimum of 21. Also in the MSA, in Section 8, we're looking at, we're under Public Law 280. Now, the federal government back in 1953 basically passed a law that allowed the states to assume jurisdiction over tribal lands. And Public Law 280 will allow us to enforce the state law at the casino because it will be, reservation property. There is a notation in here, there's a sentence in here that says that the city shall have the authority to enforce state and local criminal laws. Currently under Public Law 280, our municipal code doesn't apply whatsoever. Now, if this statement reads the way I think it reads, but I think it's kind of turned around a little bit. If we do pass this, we do need to have the ability to enforce our ordinance, because that will allow us to enforce a few more quality of life issues. So there are just a couple things that if the MSA is approved, that I would recommend that they be changed. Now, obviously, this is just an issue for the community and the council whether or not this casino is approved or not. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions for the chief? Anybody? Okay. I would, go ahead, Mike. You were making your comments. Go ahead.
That's all. I just want to make one comment about some of the accusations that have been made. The mayor told me before the meeting she did not want to have a vote tonight. She wanted to put it off until at least a week. So in all fairness to the mayor, that was her intention. I said at least a week.
Okay, Mr. Thomas.
Yes, Madam Mayor. I too, I think the public has spoken at their displeasure, but I think to some degree you have to look that we have worked extremely hard at building the face of this community and this council with our transparency with you guys, that we've tried our best to dismiss all of those past experiences that you've had with other council, that we have brought or done our best to try to bring everything to you and in front of you. And, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather as well, but more importantly, I'm a pastor in this community, and all I have is my reputation, and there's no way in the world I would do anything that would tarnish that, nor would this council. So when you say that we would deliberately try to deceive you, I really have strong feelings against that, especially when you talk about, we reference scripture, we don't talk about Colossians 3:17, where it says that everything that is done, let it be done in words and in deeds, in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and to make those accusations against us. It's not a good look, because we are a part of this community as well. So the mayor did say she didn't want to do it. We said we didn't want to do it because we want to hear from you. Not to be ridiculed, but to hear from you. Tell us how you feel. That's what we wanted to know. How do you feel as a community? Not point fingers. So, I'll leave it like that. If you're displeased, I'm a little hurt too.
Amen.
I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I think you said it very eloquently. We bring it to you. It's on the agenda so that this can happen, so that you can show up and we can talk about it. We've already stated we're not voting on it tonight. You say, well, how come you haven't stated your opinion yet? Because we want to hear from the community. That's our job. And we may have an opinion, but the community may have just told us their opinion. That may change our opinion, since our job is, as public servants, to serve you and do the will of the people. That's why you elected us, and we're listening. So give us a chance to listen. Don't beat us up before we're done. We haven't made a decision. We're here to listen to those concerns, address those concerns, have open discussion. That's what we do. So please, do not put the cart before the horse and accuse us of things that we haven't done or are not trying to do. I've lived in communities with casinos. I lived in Washington State for many, many, many years. Okay? So yes, I feel for you. I've seen the problem gambling, and I've also seen the upside to the communities. I have burned up the phone lines talking to I don't know how many communities to gather more information and more facts from those who have lived through all of these experiences, so I can make it a good decision for my community and do right by my community. So I ask that you give us time and treat us fairly as you would like us to treat you fairly. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to know if the tribe would like to make any statements. Mr. White? Please give him the respect that he has given us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for affording us the opportunity, and thank you to the residents of Ridgecrest, and of course, thank you for the tribe. It's been a very interesting evening for me to hear some of your concerns. I will let you know that Ridgecrest is not a different city to a lot of cities in the United States, including California, that a tribe or a corporate company from either Las Vegas or wherever has wanted to build a casino in the town. And when that happens, we always see, sort of pushback from various segments of the community. Sometimes those statements are justified, and sometimes they're not based on facts. I would like to tell the council and the city that the tribe will be a very good neighbor. I'm going to give you a little bit of the scope of the casino so, people don't think that the MGM or one of those big monsters from Las Vegas is coming into town. It's not. This is going to be a small, what we call a neighborhood casino, built in what we believe to be a pristine location. It's in an area that's close to the base. Thank you for letting me use your offices for work and spending some money there. It's really in a sort of commercial area. It's not in a neighborhood, because those are facts. In some communities whereby a casino has been stuck next to a residential area, then there has been some impact on property values. Back in July of last year, the tribe instructed me, after consulting with Washington, D.C., on where would they be allowed to go, or where would the best place for them to go within their what's called their Aboriginal territory. Now, it's well known the tribe has a good reputation and has been around the Bishop area and Death Valley since time immemorial. So they went to Washington, D.C., and Washington, D.C. basically said, Ridgecrest is within your Aboriginal territory. That's a place where it would be acceptable from the federal perspective to have a casino, a small casino. So I represent the development and management company we have a deal with the tribe whereby we are in charge of developing the casino and managing it for 7 years. We basically take the process, we recommend to the tribe what size it should be. We pay for feasibility studies. I personally have spent a lot of time in Ridgecrest taking a look at all the areas, and basically it took us 6 months. We spent a lot of money on an environmental report to actually discover that the best site would be where the base is, right outside the base there. As far as the scope of the casino is concerned, it's going to be a small casino on a similar size to the one in Bishop, 349 slot machines, 6 table games, a bar, an entertainment area, a restaurant, of course, as is very common in all casinos, as well as a little entertainment area. So you're not looking at putting this monstrosity here. As developers from many places, we are very cognizant of doing something that actually fits in with the area. I mean, you wouldn't build an Excalibur out here. It'd be an insult to the people, and it would be stupid on our behalf. So one of the questions which came up was, would the residents of Ridgecrest, have some input? Well, we abide by all the rules and regulations, building codes, and what we do is we come up with a rendering of what the place is going to look like, and I can assure everybody here tonight that it's going to look pretty nice. It's not one of these monsters with huge lighting and flashing signs and stuff, but it'll fit into the area. It'll look like it's part of the community. Some tribes have had a bad rap and have got into contentious battles with, one, the city council, or two, the community. And anticipating that there would be some questions and some concerns tonight, I, on the way over, pulled out an old article from Thunder Valley Casino. Thunder Valley Casino is a monster. It's probably, they have 3,000 machines versus your casino here will have 349 machines. Thunder Valley had a very contentious issue and really went to war with it was just a train wreck. What happened is, at the end, when everything came out, the paper at a ribbon-cutting ceremony at Thunder Valley Casino, the mayor said they are good neighbors. They need to be thanked. Rockland Mayor Scott Ewell told the more than 300 dignitaries and guests on hand. Quote, "We are lucky that they are there." Roseville's Councilwoman Carol Garcia told the Bee after a tour of the hotel. The Love Fest atmosphere Monday belied the acrimony that existed before the casino, and regional communities worked out a groundbreaking agreement in the years leading up to the casino's 2003 opening. I can assure you that we, as the developer, the tribe sitting over there, will do the right thing here and want to do the right thing. When you live in the same community and you work in the same community, if everybody's not on the same page, you have a problem. And a casino business does not have those problems, or nor does it want those problems. Sort of in closing, if I may say, I know there was a pamphlet put out outside that had some pretty interesting facts that were put out by Washington, D.C., but I had the privilege and the pleasure of opening for Carnival Cruise Lines 23 years ago a casino riverboat in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The casinos back then were very contentious. Governor Edwards was pro, and there were a lot of people that weren't pro. And a lot of facts came out. And the Louisiana Gaming Association, and you can go and look at this online, it's a gaming facts and myths. And one of the myth number one is gaming creates nothing. It merely takes money that would otherwise be used by residents for other purposes. The facts are, riverboat casinos have become a major economic force that benefits all the residents of the state, and it generates millions of dollars of new money for Louisiana in several ways. Second myth is the introduction of riverboat gaming or gaming into a community causes an increase in crime. And the facts are there's no correlation between crime rates and riverboat casinos. In fact, studies have shown that the increased police protection afforded by the tax revenue generated by the riverboat casinos often decreases crime. One example is Bossier City, where crime, according to Police Chief Denny Disson, has decreased 40% in the last 3 years. Obviously, having done our homework on what constitutes Ridgecrest and how it operates, Ridgecrest is very fortunate that it has one of the lowest crime rates in the state of California. And that's a great thing to have. Now, we would not want to build a casino or bring a casino here that would go double the crime rate. You know, you guys would want to shoot me. So obviously we're very cognizant on crime.
Don't worry about it.
Thank you. Every casino, because it's a cash business, has a in-house security force. And their job is to keep crime, prostitution, drug dealing off there. I can tell you now, with knowing the Native American challenges that a lot of their people have had with drug addiction and stuff over the years, this crew over here does not tolerate drugs and does not tolerate crime. So I can rest assured all of you here that your crime is not going to go up. One of the reasons that we put in this MSA was for a police vehicle, because we're going to not only cater to the local residents, we're going to bring people from out of town. There's an 80 to 90 to 100-mile radius here, south of here, west of here, really nothing to the east, of people that come here to Walmart and will come here to Super Walmart, and we would love to have them have eat at the place and maybe play a slot machine or play on the table games. So what are we going to do? It's economic growth to the city of Ridgecrest. I want to touch on property taxes as well. Walmart, the existing Walmart here pays $55,000 a year in property taxes for that 90,000 square foot building. The bulk of that money actually goes to the county. Very little of it comes over here to the city. This MSA was specifically designed by ourselves to make sure that all the money that was paid by the casino and the tribe all goes to the city of Ridgecrest. It doesn't get divvied up to Sacramento, it doesn't get divvied up to the county, and we took great efforts and spent a lot of time making sure that the pieces and parts were stuffed. We know that there's going to be an increase in traffic at the entry. We know there's going to be an increase of people, and so obviously with that you're going to need a few more policemen. So that's the reason behind doing that, so that all the money stays here and the costs or the impacts, as this one lady referred to, get paid for. The one question that did come up, Mayor, was access to casinos increases gambling addiction and leads to a higher rate of bankruptcy. That's myth number 4. The fact is the vast majority of Americans gamble responsibly with little or no adverse consequences, according to a new study by the National Gaming Impact Study Commission, which was released a few years ago. So some people say there's nothing but bankruptcy and problems. Everybody's an irresponsible gambler. Everybody blows their rent money on gambling. Well, there are some, unfortunately, that do that, but the majority of people don't. Some gentleman made a pretty good comment here, which is, some families enjoy going to a casino, having a couple of beers and enjoying themselves. The U.S. Treasury Department recently released a study entitled "A Study of the Interaction of Gambling and Bankruptcy." This study has found no connection between gambling and bankruptcy. The study makes the following conclusions. Using state-level data, we find no connection between state bankruptcy rates and either the extent of or introduction of casino gambling. This is supported by county-level analysis that shows no statistically significant casino effect, which is proximity to a casino with regard to county bankruptcy rates. Mayor, that sort of concludes my short statement. Does anybody have any questions?
Can I ask you a question? Have you done a study how many cars off of 395 and 14 your casino will add to our net traffic
Scott,
here?
people that are watching on TV can't hear what you're saying.
Well, I'm sorry. Perhaps you would repeat your question. It's simple. It's just a number. Do we have a number?
Yes. Very significant. Yes, sir.
You said you would require police officers in Florida, so that would be a minimum of 2. The police officer probably costs the city $100,000.
Sir, can you do me a favor? Can you please come to the mic so everybody can hear you?
When we want the watching public to be able to hear you too. Your questions are of value to us and them.
You mentioned an increase in police presence of policemen, which would be a minimum of 2.
Correct.
Police chief would probably have better data on this, but wouldn't it cost about $100,000 per officer per year for total cost? So $200,000 total per officer. Right. So you're talking about half of this economic benefit alone is added up by a minimum of 2 officers. So you're talking about the economic benefit to the city. Right there, it's reduced by half before you even get off the ground floor. Any comment to that?
I'll have a conversation with the police chief afterwards.
Okay. That was just something real quick I found, but I'm sure I could find some more.
May I ask my question? I would like to get a number if I may.
Please.
Thank you very much, counsel. Thank you, Mr. White. What I'm trying to find out is, has a study been done that will indicate to the city what it will do, the construction of this casino will do to our traffic that we've been trying to attract off of the 395 and the 14, north and south? And I would ask Mr. White if he has any numbers or could help us with it. Thank you.
Yes, Mayor, I do have those numbers, but not with me. You know, what we've done is we did a internal feasibility study, which basically looks, you know, at the population within a radius of the city, you know, what the per capita incomes are, and we look at the populations that go out into 10, 20, 30, 40-mile ranges. You know, we look at the AADT, which is the average annual daily traffic counts on the 395, as well as China Lake Boulevard and stuff, and then we figure out what we call the capture rates, and that's basically how a casino puts its numbers together. And surprisingly enough, there's 2 or 3 professional firms out there, and we will hire one of those to complete the official study, which is also needed for this project. And they come, you know, surprisingly pretty close to what the casino win numbers are.
Okay. One more.
All right, you said there was $200,000 for additional police officers plus fire to go into the budgeting. Yet you said there was no correlation between gambling problems and in your study. Yet you're allowing more money for gambling problems in your budget. How do you correlate the 2 different issues?
Well, I think that's covered by one of the myths is when you're going to attract more people into a town, you know, be they coming up for Walmart and then coming up to the casino, or whether you're bringing a bus trip of people from down south, or you're just basically marketing to people and bringing up there, you will have more traffic come into the city. And when you have more traffic, I know the police like to have a certain number of officers and a certain number of cars out there that correlates to the number of people in the town. I'm just going to say one thing here on the subject. And again, this is from the Louisiana Casino Association. It says, sometimes when a new attraction is introduced to an area, crime may increase slightly simply due to the fact that thousands more people are flooding into the area. It's not necessarily a casino. Popular tourist destinations like Orlando, Florida, and Branson, Missouri experienced increases in crime when Disney World and music theaters opened.
Okay. All right, I think we all have heard a lot. I think we all have learned a lot. I'm going to make a motion that we do not, I'm going to make a motion that we table this item, that we have a special meeting next Wednesday at 6 o'clock with one item on it. I'd like to continue to hear your opinions, both pro and con. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Councilmember Mauer.
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Acton.
Aye.
4 approved, 1 absent.
I would like to ask staff, both the tribe and staff, if you could look at some of the questions that were expressed tonight and see if we can come up with some answers for some of those things, especially the process. This really hurt me deeply, the questioning of our motives and process. I'd like to have that addressed simply and factually so people understand how this came to be. But more than that, how it came to be is not important to the casino, the issue of its impact on this community. I'd like to see us address that, both from all the concerns that have been expressed. And I appreciate you all coming, speaking, being honest, and respectful. Mr. White, thank you.
Thank you,
To
Mayor.
the
Thank you,
tribe,
everybody.
thank you. We appreciate it. It was a long trip. I hope we'll be able to be back next Wednesday. Okay, we have some
I
other.
want to ask one thing. The lady that presented this to us, is that you? Would you be willing to meet with me sometime this next week? Oh. Okay, if you could leave your name and phone number, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. We have other items on the agenda. Okay, approve a resolution to allocate $25,000 from the wastewater fund to partially fund the preparation of the salt nutrient management plan. I believe Councilman Mauer.
That was my item to be put on the agenda. As reported in a previous meeting.
Bring it up closer. Your speaker. Okay, I didn't hear you. Okay.
I've been meeting with the Salt Nutrient Committee, along with Lahontan, who is requiring this report to be presented to them in June. The Water District is spearheading that. And,
Wait a minute, Mike. Please, people, go outside and speak so we can continue on. We appreciate you being here, but let's keep the conversation out of council chambers, okay? Thank you. We appreciate that. Mike, I'm sorry.
That's okay. The Water District has agreed to be the lead agency on this and have the contract with the consultant to draw up the plan for Lahontan for June's presentation. They've asked us to participate monetarily, and so I would move that we would allocate $25,000 out of the sewer fund to be presented to the Indian Wells Valley Water District to pay for half of this report.
Okay, is there any questions or comment from the board?
Thank you.
None? Lori, did you?
No, actually, I remember this from when I was sitting on. Yeah, thank you. Because man, brain fried all of a sudden. And no, I'm glad that that's a very good use of coming out, and I'm excited to see us do that. So no, I'm quite happy because it has to be done. It needed to be done a long time ago. So yeah, I'm totally supportive of this.
Okay, public comment.
I think Stan has some comments.
Stan Rotora. That's the first time I've been up here tonight.
It is.
We've missed you.
Yeah. Well, my understanding that this study that Lahontan is asking to have done is really for the basin.
That is correct.
And that is roughly 599 square miles. In Ridgecrest is about 15 to 20 square miles, something like that. In terms of ranking of areas, I believe that the Navy probably comes in at the most square miles of anybody within that basin. And then next would probably be BLM. I'm not sure. I'm guessing, but my belief is probably BLM. And number 3 would be Kern County in terms of actual area that's covered by the basin. And based upon what I heard at the Water District meeting, the total fee for this thing that study was around $50,000.
That's correct.
And the city is suggesting that the city throw in $25,000. Has anything been done to talk to the Navy to contribute their share of this money?
Excuse me. The Navy actually prepared the initial report to Lahontan, and then it was a hurried job, and then Lahontan sat on it for 18 months, and then got back with all the corrections. So the Navy did do the initial one, and now we're trying to do the final one, and the final one's going to be $50,000. So the Navy's already participated. The county has not been to any of our meetings.
Okay.
But one of the concentrations, the reason I asked for it to be done this way is because the meetings I've attended, Lahontan has specifically talked to us about the sewer plant and the recycling the water and things like that there, and that was one of their major concerns.
Okay. Well, I would agree that the sewer plant probably is a major concern, but the sewer plant is located on Navy property, and the sewer plant is a Navy sewer plant.
City sewer plant.
It's owned by the Navy.
Well, okay.
It really
who owns
is
it
owned
or
by
who
the Navy.
operates
It
it?
wasn't
Okay.
not given to. We operate it for the Navy. If the Navy wanted to operate it, they would operate it themselves. When this was brought up before the Water District, the Water District said that they would get their share of the money probably refunded through various grants, and that they weren't really putting out any real money because that one way or another it would come back to them. Is the city planning on getting any grants from Lahontan? Do you know?
Okay.
Are we?
The Water District has not, in the meetings, they have not mentioned they were going to try to get grant money back for it. I wasn't aware.
Okay, it came out at a Water District meeting. Another question that came up was at the Water District meeting was, well, what would happen if we didn't give them the money? And the answer, as I recall, was, well, not really much of anything, because it's not money we owe Lahontan, it's just money they requested.
Well, the money doesn't go to Lahontan. The report
Understand
goes to Lahontan.
It's going to go to the Water District, is my understanding. The Water District will put together a report.
That's correct.
But it's a report that's being requested by Lahontan.
Requesting is a nice term.
Mandated.
It's mandated.
And mandated, well, I guess that's not the impression that I got when I went to the Water District meeting. It's a report that Lahontan wants. Is there some legal?
They're having a hearing, I'm sorry, Mike. they're having a hearing, and Lahontan is having a hearing in Bishop in June, and the report must be completed and presented to them by that time.
Now, what repercussions we'd get
Yeah,
from
that
that if we
was
didn't
really-
do it?
Yeah.
I didn't ask them that.
Well, what came up at the Water District meeting was, you know, what repercussions can there be? You know, we either give them a report or we don't.
Well, several years ago, when I was the mayor, Lahontan came down on the city, on the sewer plant and filed a cease and desist order on us. And I don't think we want that to happen again.
No, I guess I find it hard to believe that Lahontan would tell us to shut down our sewer plant because they really don't want the sewage to be piled up in the streets. But I guess my feeling is, anyway, that the Kern County has more money than the city, and we should talk to the county before we commit our funds.
See, we're out of time, too, because this report has to be finished and presented in
I
the middle of
understand
June.
that, but I also understand, and it came out at the Water District meeting, is, you know, we gave them a report almost 2 years ago. They sat on it and sat on it and sat on it. And now all of a sudden they want us to jump through a knothole. I'm a little tired of all of the unfunded mandates
From the
that
state?
the state keeps telling us, we got to do this, we got to do this. We're supposed to be able to vote on whether we want to get additional taxes. And that brings up the last issue. My understanding that you want to take this money out of the wastewater fund as opposed to the general fund. The general fund is discretionary. The wastewater fund is specifically for supporting the processing of sewage. That is, you actually get a service out of the wastewater fund. We've been told that the wastewater fund has been increased. The fees that we have put on our tax bills have been increased so that we could have a new wastewater treatment plant. Quite frankly, my feeling is that this report that Lahontan says they want, they can pay for it themselves. We need a wastewater plant. The money was put into the fund so that we can have a new wastewater plant. I would much prefer, if the city really wants to throw the money away, which is my personal feeling, that it ought to come out of the general fund rather than the fund that the ratepayers specifically put into a fund to support a new waste treatment plant. I don't think Lahontan has any right to tell us that they can tax us, which really is a tax. I don't think there would be, based upon what I heard at the Water District meeting, any consequences of it. Lahontan wants a report. They can fund the report. We can give them in lieu support, give them all the data they want for free. That's fine. I was here last Friday night when the state of California came in and talked about GSA, and basically what they told us was the beatings are going to continue until the morale gets better. I think that type of high-handed position of the state of California has got to stop, and we have to keep putting up with it. As long as we continue to pay them money that they don't deserve, and I haven't heard anybody say that we really owe them this money. This is a voluntary contribution or a donation, and I totally disagree with any type of donation to the state. But if you really want to do it, I would suggest that you take it out of the general fund. Thank you.
The reason I proposed it came out of the sewer fund is because the only reason we're involved with it is because of the sewer fund.
And I don't think we should take it out of anywhere, but I understand where you're coming from.
I understand where you're coming from, too.
Where I'm coming from.
Dave Matthews, I agree with everything that Stan said there, but there's one thing I'm remiss on here. Maybe you explained it at the beginning, but I missed it. Just exactly what is this study for?
Salt nutrients. It's what is being put back into the soil from water being percolated back into the soil.
Salt nutrients. And where is that going to be? At different places around the valley, or what?
It affects the whole valley. But
And
the
how-
the city was specifically targeted because we run the sewer plant.
Because what?
Because we run the sewer plant.
Oh.
It's the total
Well-
dissolved solids that are in the water.
How
that are-
how are they going to determine the salts that are already there as opposed to the ones that are being put back? I don't know.
Well,
There's
for
got to be
example,
somebody wiser than me.
when the farmers fertilize their crops or when we fertilize our lawns, some of that seeps down in the soil. And when we percolate water at the sewer plant, or actually by sending the water back to the old plant and growing alfalfa, that actually uses up some of the nitrogen nutrients to grow the alfalfa.
Well, I can get down there and test, but I don't know. Anyway, it's beyond me.
Me too.
Is there any other discussion? Okay.
Dennis, do you have any comments on that?
No, not really. I mean, it has to do with the groundwater management. I mean, that's the whole purpose, and that's a component of the groundwater management plan, is the salt nutrient management plan.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, right? Oh, we don't.
I
thought
move approval.
You moved it, okay.
I'll second.
Councilmember Mauer.
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Acton.
Aye.
4 approve, 1 absent.
Okay, the next item, item number 14, to approve a resolution creating an ad hoc budget review committee. Mr. Lemieux.
Sure. It's been a long night, so I'll try to do this quickly. This is a resolution, a proposed resolution and an ordinance that arises from comments received by some members of the City Council at the last meeting. This is put on here kind of in an effort to explore this concept. This isn't necessarily a recommendation by anybody, but we're trying to be responsive to what we heard the City Council requesting. The purpose of this is very simple, and as you can see, it's very short. The idea is that we are creating an ad hoc budget review committee, the purpose of which is to provide members of the City Council additional information regarding formation of the budget during the budget creation process so that they feel fully informed, I guess, and not like mushrooms, I guess was the comment last time.
I'll never use that word again.
I heard quite a bit about that tonight. Anyway, and so you can see it's enacted using 2 documents. The first, I'll refer to this, the one you see second first, which is an ordinance. The purpose of that ordinance is simply to change the description of the general manager's duties to add ad hoc committee to his list of responsibilities. That's all that's for, but it does require an ordinance which changes the municipal code. So if you guys were to proceed on this, we would have to do that through the normal ordinance process of first and second reading. The other document in front of you is just a very quick resolution. And as you can see from that resolution, it just creates the ad hoc committee and describes how it operates. I've had some conversations with the city manager about this, and he had 2 requested changes that he'd like to outline with you guys before you
Yeah, I was going to say,
continue.
I got his memo and wanted him to respond to that. I also have one question on the resolution. It forms a committee strictly for 16-17. My thought was, do we have to pass a new ordinance every year? Or can we take the 16, 17 out.
I'd like to see it be a part of.
Michael, are you still on the? He's been sitting here all night, so I thought I'd give him a chance to finally talk. Did you fall asleep, Michael?
We hung up.
Put it on mute.
Maybe I lost him. I don't understand why it specifies those years. I wasn't part of the discussion. Is there? It
Does
doesn't.
that have to do with the fact that it's an ad hoc committee? Because ad hoc committees can only go for a limited time. Maybe that's why you did it.
That's a good question.
Hi, Keith. I'm still here.
Oh, there he is. Hey, Michael, why do you have it as limited to the?
Well, I did think about that, and I think that the purpose I put that into the language was that the ad hoc language was typically to make it temporary, but we can certainly increase that to some other years as well.
Well, is it important, I guess, that it's an ad hoc committee versus a standing committee for some reason?
No, there's no municipal code provision that specifies that. No.
I'd rather make it standing committee.
I'd like it to be that way also.
Can you hear the city council, Michael?
Barely. No.
I want to make it a standing committee.
And not just
We
look
can
at the,
certainly do. Yeah.
And then, I guess Mr. Spear
Yeah, we
can
can make
explain.
that.
I understand where you're coming from, I think, but I'd like you to expand on your proposed changes.
Oh, well, yes, no, I had mentioned, I simply wanted to change where it says, if you go to the very lead of that, it talks about the powers and authority of the city manager, and it lists them, and then it suggests that under powers and authority to regularly meet, fully reform, and receive any applicable. I wanted to change that under powers and authority to assign appropriate staff, because from a practical standpoint, very much like Measure L, they're going to be wanting to talk to the finance department for numbers, and they're going to be wanting to talk to department heads with regard to the particular activities. And the other reason is the way it's written now actually contradicts 4 other sections in the municipal code. One of those sections, in fact, reads that the city manager may attend any and all meetings of the commissions, boards, committees created by the council, and be heard by such and inform those members. And then also under that same heading of 4.105, it says cooperation with subordinates and commissions, subordinates and department heads, shall assist the manager in conducting the affairs of the city. So it gives that flexibility, and it also puts in place the ability to assign the staff members that can best assist the board, and it does the least to affect these other, or to contradict the other sections of the municipal code.
I would like to see it not also just at the preparation of the budget, but as we come to the end of the budget year, we true up where we are and we see what's going on. I'd like to be able to have that committee have that same.
Well, I would suggest if you approach it as a standing committee as opposed to a budget committee, that could be a periodic. It could be quarterly. They could meet monthly. I mean, in other words, they could be a committee that you determine the time, and then, in other words, they can be there. The budget cycle generally consists of the of 4 phases, and they could be involved in all 4 phases, because there is the preparation phase, there's the adoption phase, the execution, which is the monitoring phase, which they could be involved in all these phases.
Okay.
That was my intent.
Okay.
I don't mind making the modifications that Mr. Spears proposed. I would like to change it to a standing committee rather than ad hoc committee, and set a monthly meeting as necessary like the other committees are. And then just have
Is that the consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Michael, it looks like you get those changes?
Okay.
I've got
Sounds
one
good.
other suggested change.
Okay.
I think the purpose of having this done by resolution the existence of the committee done by resolution instead of ordinance is that if in the future you guys decide it's not necessary anymore, or the next city council doesn't want it, they can easily revise it. So what I would suggest, if that's the intent, Michael, was that the intent?
It was, yes.
Okay. What I would suggest then is, for consistency in the ordinance portion, it should say if any under the attendance requirement, or any, or it could say budget committee as directed by the city council or something like that, so that so you don't have to revise the municipal code again if they decide they don't need the committee anymore.
Okay.
Is there any other council comment? Public comment?
Hey, Michael.
Yeah.
We might want to look and see if we even need to change the municipal code. The city manager just pointed out to me that city manager already has a requirement that
Cooperate with any commissions, boards that are.
to cooperate with commissions and boards that are established. That might be sufficient, I think, as far as the municipal code is concerned. We can just do it by ordinance.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
If that's agreeable to the city council.
Whatever works.
Yeah. Tom?
Thank you, Tom Wicknick.
You've been quiet all night, too.
I know. I don't understand why you're making this so hard. Until the past council did away with committees, when I was on the council, we had the committees. And the city org committee was also the budget committee. Okay?
Well, back when we were on the council years ago.
I mean back lately, when I was on the last time we had. I understand the city manager authorities and interaction with the city council and all this stuff. I get that. Okay, what I'm just saying is that when I was on the council the last time, we just had the org committee, and they did the budget. There wasn't any ordinances or resolutions or.
Well, that was what we were told we had to do.
They
to
did away with
accomplish
it.
this.
They did it. The last council did away with them.
Do you have an organization committee now?
Yes, but
Yes.
Tom, I'm looking at having a finance committee like we did back in the 80s, where there's not any planning commissioners on it, just 2 city council members.
Okay, that's fine.
Because some of the things we might be discussing are kind of sensitive.
Okay, I get that.
So
Just
I
don't.
So I don't want it to be
You
the city.
assign it to this committee. Now, the city org could have a subcommittee, of which then you would have your committee without.
But this was, we were told we had to go this route.
This is the way, yeah.
We had to go this route to get here.
So we're trying to follow the rules and do it right.
Keith, tell me where am I wrong? They've had a city org committee in the past. This could be part of the duties of that city org committee without all this going on.
But we don't want the city org committee because that consists of council members and planning commission. We just want.
But like I said, the city org committee can establish a budget committee of the 2 council members to do this action.
I think you're making it sound more complicated than it is, Tom. This is just a quick 1-paragraph resolution, and it addresses their concerns about the organizational structure. It's not a big deal.
Well, when you were talking about the municipal code had to be changed, and I'm going, what? Because you were saying that.
Well,
That's what we thought we had to do, but now they're saying.
After discussion, I think we managed to make it simpler.
So you just assign it to the org committee, and they go down the road. Thank you.
Stan Rotora. First of all, I appreciate some of the comments that the council made with regard to what had been originally proposed. I definitely agree that it needs to be more than just putting the preparation of the budget. The execution of the budget was mentioned, but there was no mention done of the reconciliation of the budget at the end of the year, which I think is critical to understanding what really went on in the budget. The CAFR doesn't get put out until 6 or 7 or sometimes 8 months after the end of the fiscal year, and that's too late to do anything useful. I think the council needs to specifically be involved in any end-of-year reconciliation. So that's in addition to earlier council comments about not just being part of the buildup of the budget.
Yeah, the true up, the
Oh,
reconciliation.
true up, that was what you're referring to.
And the adjustments in September.
And that should happen in July, late August, early September at the latest. That way you actually have a possibility of impacting the next year's budget. You find something when the CAFR comes out 6, 7, 8 months later, forget it. It's already a done deal. There was no mention in the what was anyway put out in the agenda packet of public attendance at the meeting, and I understand Councilman Maurer doesn't believe in that. My personal feeling is that the public's important, and there's no reason why the public shouldn't be allowed to be involved or attendance. I go to the water board, water district meetings. They have them every month. They're open to the public. I don't think, quite frank, and they got a simple budget. I don't think they need them every month. They have them every month. I don't think this group needs them every month, but I think they do need to be open to the public. In fact, I would go one step further and say, just for continuity's sake, I know Mr. Maurer's got a background in accounting, but that's not always going to be the case. I think having a member or two of the public on that committee for continuity's sake would be very beneficial to this board. Otherwise, when Mike leaves, all that wealth of information will be gone again. And I think it's important that the public not only play a role in terms of attending, but also play a role of actually one or two members being on the committee. It's not like the committee is going to actually vote on anything. All they're doing is helping put a budget together, identify ideas, facts, figures, that kind of thing. So I would like to see that be included in the discussion, that the public be actually involved. I think there have been years when I have been sitting out here listening to the budget not the preparation, but the review, and there may be as many as a half a dozen members of the public. That's probably the most I've ever seen. I can remember years when there was one member of the public sitting out here. Much of that, I think, is due to the fact that the public knows nothing about the budget. You would get more input from the public on the budget if the public were allowed to see really what's in the budget. I think with the new system that we're getting, and hopefully we're getting it fairly quick, it'd be a lot easier for everybody to get access to the budget. I think one of the reasons right now we're hindered, everybody is hindered, not just the public, but the council as well, because of our financial system. That problem will be cured. And I think it will make it much easier for everybody to be involved. And I think it's important that the public be involved. Simple. Thank you.
I don't disagree either. I think if the public wants to attend, did you envision that there would be no public involved?
Well, as I recall back in the 80s, it was just two of us meeting with the city administrator and the finance director, because I remember one time the other member of the council that was on the finance committee was Jim Pearson, and he was ill, so we went down and met with him in his hospital bed in Lancaster, and then a few months later he passed away. And that's just, That's just my memory of it. We obviously couldn't do that if it had to be a Brown Act meeting, for example. I don't know if it has to be a Brown Act meeting. I guess it could still be open to the public.
Standing committees have to be Brown Act.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, when we first started talking about doing this, because we are a city org, and we both have the finance background, same bank, it was so that we could sit with our finance director and our city manager, 2 council members, as they were planning it before it got right up to the budget hearings, where we then go through everything with the public, just to make sure that we had an understanding to prep for, make sure that we felt we might be on the same page, or if we saw something that may be coming up, then we could go ahead and agenda it, stuff like that. That was the purpose of it, which ad hoc would be non-brown, non-agendized. We wouldn't have to worry about it. Standing committee is brown, correct?
Yes, but recognize that you can't have a bogus ad hoc designation to avoid the
No, I understand that. I'm just making sure.
I mean, in other words, ad hoc has to mean actually ad hoc. If you're having regular ad hoc meetings, then it's
no
really
longer
a standing
ad hoc and
committee
it's standing.
meeting.
Right. But I think that's why we started out with ad hoc. That's what I'm trying to remember,
Okay.
so I can try to get my bearings in this discussion. But it was so that we had more than just 2 city staffers taking on all of the burden to help them somewhat.
So we'd be more familiar with it, too.
Right. So that was what I remember from the discussion when we talked about doing this. Because, yeah, we do have some sensitive subjects or things that aren't open for public. That's why we have closed session. So I don't know. But that's what I remember from why we talked about it and why we started this in the first
Of course,
place.
the Brown Act has changed a lot in 30 years, hasn't it?
And that is a new rule, by the way, relatively new.
So the state can have all their private meetings in the world, but they don't let anybody else.
They also get to keep all the money.
They also get to keep all the money.
So where are we with this?
I guess it'd have to be a Brown Act committee.
Okay, so we're going to have
Attorney has something.
a finance.
I mean, if you had, you could have, and you continue to have, I'm sure, genuine ad hoc meetings where 1 or 2 of you sit down with staff and you talk about things. That's part of the job. And you could certainly have one of those regarding the budget prior to its adoption. But once you sort of institutionalize these things, and, I think the way Michael did it was correct to avoid the Brown Act. He just said, this year we're going to have one. It's weird to do it in a resolution a little bit, but that's what he decided. That's what we decided to do to make it clear. Once you say we're going to do it every year, or we're going to do it quarterly, it's obviously not ad hoc anymore.
Here's the other thing. If memory serves, doing it for a year would be the smart thing to do, but not longer than that, because we don't know how it's going to affect us with the new software and everything being online for the public either, or how much easier our budget is going to be to do versus how it is now. So we may not need this for a continuing standing committee either.
We can always just continue it.
Yeah.
Guess we could do the ad hoc committee initially. And how soon are we going to have the new computer system up and going?
September.
Well, I think as I started this out last year when I asked you if we could be involved in the budget process, and then this year when I asked if we could be involved in the budget process, I wanted it, and like I said, I've asked this 7 times. I just want to get it over so we can be involved in the budget process and not at the very end. And like I said to you, what happens if the budget is already done and in our wisdom, the city council, when it comes to us and says, we want to spend $800,000 on broadband. That means that, excuse me, everything starts over again. I just want to be involved in it so we understand what's going on, so we can not, oh, I hate that word, those little round things that live in the cave. I don't want to be that. I want to know what's going on. I want our council to know what's going on. I'm not going to use that M word. But I want to be able to see so we can understand and not have to say we don't know.
you know, there's a simpler, if you just want to do an ad hoc committee meeting for this year now, you could just do that by minute order. There could be a motion in a second that, you know, 2 members sit on an one-time ad hoc committee at a time to be decided by staff, and, you know, prior to the adoption of the budget, make that direction as a minute order, vote on it right now, you're done. And then if it happens to come up again, you guys want to do it again, you can always do it again. That's an appropriate ad hoc committee.
But I don't want it to just be one time when we
Okay.
meet.
Okay.
We meet to discuss money in the budget, and when we true up, I want the word reconciliation. I want to be involved in it. I want us to be involved in it.
Okay, that's more of a standing committee, so then I think I would recommend you stick with the current format if that's what
Okay.
the majority wants.
Unless somebody else feels differently. Mike? You got it on because.
I'm not sure what direction we're going now.
I don't either. I think as somebody said, we're making more out of this than we need to. Let's just have a meeting, and I don't know why it has to have a name. We're
Yeah,
going to meet on the 3rd Tuesday of whatever. I don't
We're
care.
gonna meet
Just
when-
do it.
We're going to meet when the, well,
So is it the recommendation that we keep it the way that it is?
The ad
So that
hoc?
we can meet whenever we need to meet?
If you want it to be a standing committee, which is covered by the Brown Act, then we will come back to you with a resolution establishing that committee. If you want it to be an ad hoc committee, which is not covered by the Brown Act, then you could do that tonight by minute order.
and how often can that meet before it's not an ad hoc committee anymore?
Well, there's not a magical number, but it has to be related to a specific topic, and that topic has to be something that will go away in time. So in other words, you could say it's associated with this year's
That's why he tied to the
budget.
specific budget.
That's why he did that, yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess I'd like to try it that way for now, and then if we need to change it to a standing committee, be interesting to see what happens in September, because I know the public wants the budget to be as clear to them as it is to us, and that's the whole point of trying to do something. So I move approval as Michael wrote it, but with the changes that Dennis proposed.
Yeah, you don't really need I don't think you really need the ordinance. And if you're doing a genuine ad hoc committee, you can just approve the resolution as written if you wanted.
Okay. So moved. Well, Stan wants to make a comment.
And there's no guarantee that a new system is going to make everything totally clear and visible and transparent. There's always an interaction of being able to ask questions. And so even though I think things will get much better, or should hopefully get much better if we spend $800,000 on a new system, and it will. I mean, I'm hoping for the best. I don't think that's the total answer, and I would hate to see an interim solution being an ad hoc solution, because it kind of sounds like we're being cut out. The public is being cut out, and that's not. I mean, it's just what it sounds like. All right, to be quite honest with you, and I think the last 4 budget hearings that we've had, it seems like every year the public gets told less and less and less about how the budget is coming together. Now, some of that is we lost a lot of our ability to pull out reports from the old system, which was a real shame, and in one thing or another, and hopefully this new process will help. But still, I think it's time that the whole budget process got more transparent, and that the public was included more, and I'm trying not to be argumentative here, but I don't want to see the public or myself get cut out through a technicality of a ad hoc committee. I don't think it's appropriate.
Can the ad hoc committee have public members? We do at the water committee, the ad hoc water committee, which no longer exists.
I suppose it can. I think it. The issue there, I think, is that, well, if it's an ad hoc committee, then I suppose it can, because it's just a meeting, and let me ponder that one a little bit. I could see also, though, there's the flip side of that is if you're inviting some members of the public and excluding others. I'm wondering if you're.
I don't think you can do that.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I'd have to think about that one.
I suggest now we postpone this to the next
I
meeting.
agree.
And not next Wednesday's meeting, the next
No,
regular council
yeah.
meeting.
So put it back, you want to put it back on the agenda.
I want to put it back on the agenda. And,
In what form?
well,
Sorry.
We'll get back to
yeah, we'll ponder this, and let you know.
Okay.
Individually.
Well, Mike and I kept asking for that, and since I can talk to Mike without violating the Brown Act, can we come up with an idea?
You're allowed to talk to staff about what needs to go on the agenda, and that doesn't violate the Brown Act, because otherwise we could never form an agenda. So if
But
you,
can Mike and I come up with a idea
that's right.
of how to make it happen?
A suggestion for how to put it on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. God bless you. Thank you, thank you.
So we're done with that item?
God, I hope so.
Good night, Michael. And any other attorney on the phone?
Good night, all. Take care.
Sorry, Michael. Okay, committee reports.
I think we're all getting tired.
City org, did you all meet?
No, we meet next Wednesday, right?
Okay, except you won't meet next Wednesday because we will have a council.
We meet at 5, councils at 6.
We meet at 5, councils at 6.
All right, make it a quick one. Thank you. Sorry, didn't mean to sound like that. Infrastructure,
We meet next Thursday, a week from tomorrow.
quality of life.
Thank you. I ate my first two at
Did you all
8:30.
meet? No, okay.
Has Quality of Life ever met?
No,
Why?
haven't had to.
We don't need any quality?
Nope.
We haven't
Don't
had
need
any
quality
issues.
of life?
Tonight.
We haven't had any issues.
Maybe we need to look at if there's no need to meet. I hate to keep saying we didn't meet, like we had nothing to do. I think there is some, can we meet? Can that committee meet and look at what the purpose of that committee is and report back to us whether there are items? Because I think there are items, Park and
There-
Rec and quality of life.
There is, but we have not been to the point where we need to discuss any of them yet or meet yet. We know there is upcoming stuff. We just aren't to that point yet.
Okay.
I mean, that's true, but it is
Okay.
slowly getting there. But sure.
All right. Ad hoc Youth Advisory,
But we did not meet.
action. The Action Committee.
That one's quarterly, is it not?
That's quarterly, you're right, okay. Parks and Rec, RACVB. They didn't meet because they were putting the sign up, okay. Other committee, boards, and commissions,
I've got Turncog tomorrow.
okay. And you all were here for the meeting that was here on last Friday. Anybody didn't see, I don't want to waste time to go over it because it's been discussed quite a bit. It's not a waste of time, but I know you saw it and you can watch it. The whole entire meeting is on our video media vault, so you can see that. Okay, is there any other committees or, okay. City Manager's report.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, I just wanted to let you and the public know that I know you all received a electronic copy of the environmental document for the wastewater treatment facility. But in addition, that is posted on the website for the general public, so that's available for their review on the city website. And then the other thing I had to report was I met with Jim Prohl. He's the local programs engineer for District 6. And I met with him on really several items, but one of them was just not necessarily a concern, but we used to regularly always get our money for the different Safe Routes to School programs, the various, what's now umbrellaed under the Active Transportation Program. So because we do have we're going to have a consultant work on the grants under that particular program, the applications for the grants, rather. I just happened to, I asked Jim, I said, in terms of our ability to obtain a grant, I said we used to always get them, and now that they've went to this criteria where a component is environmental, social, and economic justice, we haven't been getting our grants. And I said, what's the what on a statewide from a statewide perspective, what's happening? How is that working out? And he said, what's happening is that was all geared toward, assisting disadvantaged communities to get their fair share. And I said, okay, now I understand that, but I said, what's our chances of actually obtaining one of these grants? And he said, well, it's a concern such that the CTC, the California Transportation Commission, has actually formed a different committee to study it, because last year, the disadvantaged communities, of the $200+ million that were available, the disadvantaged communities received over 80% of the grant money available. So that they know there's an issue, there's a committee working on it, but it's not going to be resolved for this grant cycle, because call for project concludes, I believe, in June of this year. Then we're going to respond. We're going to respond, but I'm just letting the council know that based on my discussion, the criteria won't change for what's being considered with the applications that we're going to submit this cycle.
Thank you. I have one question. I got an email from somebody today who said, I think your city manager, Dennis Spears' email has been hacked. I got an email from him, and I was scared to open it. Can you address the emails that are going out?
No, not without some.
It was regarding the, I don't know. I assume it was Mesurel survey.
What was it, hacked? Oh.
No, well, that's what she thought, because she said, why would I get an email from Dennis Spear?
Oh.
My ex-husband got one and called me and wanted to know what it was about.
Oh, really?
It's a survey.
Oh, that's because it has my name. Oh, okay, that's right. All right. So they've already started. I heard they weren't going to start for a couple of days. Oh, okay. That's our consultant then that's doing the Mesurel survey.
Oh, okay.
And they're using my name as far as the representative from the city.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That threw me because they weren't. I didn't realize they'd already started.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to be getting some results from that then.
Well, they've just begun their survey.
Okay. Good. Okay. Mayor and council comments. Lori, you start first.
I'll make it short and sweet. It's been late. Thank you for allowing me time to deal with issues I needed to deal with, and being sick was one of those. Again, we're listening. I appreciate the turnout tonight. If you are for or against, it does not, I don't want to say it doesn't matter because that comes out wrong. What matters is that you let us know. That's what I'm trying to get across. So, and I thank the staff for all of their hard work, and, we know no matter what we do, it's a tough road sometimes. So thank you. Have a good night. See you next week.
Thank you. I have none except thank you to the public.
I have one, Madam Mayor, that I wanted to bring to our attention. I was going to do it last council meeting, and it's to the mayor and city councils. It says, please find my attached invoice for a special project activity in February and the monthly report. is the first invoice reported being sent to the entire council following their directions from our February 17th meeting. And it's from Mr. Jason O'Neill. So he has started sending invoice, and he is on the job, and he's reporting to council so that the public will know and council will know as well. And then the other thing is I do want to thank staff and thank the community for coming out and sharing their concerns with us.
Mike?
You don't feel beat up, huh?
I don't feel beat up because I know that someone called me on Sunday and asked me what was on the agenda that they heard, and we went to the agenda together, and I told them I would get back, and I called and talked with staff, and they informed me that some things were on the agenda, and I called them back and told them it is on the agenda, so please be at the meeting. So I don't feel beat up. I just don't know how we got that far.
I just, we're caught between a rock and a hard spot, I think, because we're discussing negotiations in closed session that we're not supposed to disclose to the public, but then we get beat up by the public for not disclosing them, so it's kind of a catch-22. Anyway, it's late. We need to all go home and get a good night's sleep.
Okay, with that, I'll say we're adjourned. Thank you all for coming.